On tie-breaking single, the bottom of the fifth, Guardians lose the series opener. Kyle Manziel solo home run, but Cleveland's dropped 13 of its last 20. Can now find 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Get the best content from our shows each and every weekday. That's 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas. Up next time for the Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima here on 92.3 The Fan.
The afternoon drive.
What is the point of this year to you? Moving on from Deshaun, separating who's going to be here long-term or not, and figuring out if you have a long-term quarterback play on the roster. I don't think wins and losses is the end-all be-all unless you're a 3-win team or you're an 11-win team. If you're somewhere in the middle, then it's, were the young guys healthy and did they play well? Did the young quarterbacks play at all? And if they did, how did they look? Did Stefanski keep the locker room when tough time hits? Because you're not an 11-win team. At some point, tough times are going to hit.
I'm going to have a hard time with a lot of this because there is a part of me that I just need to see Stefanski get in the win column. And that might just be that it's hard to do with this team.
The afternoon drive. Weekdays starting at 2. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. The Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima.
It's fun when you get to this point in the calendar and you're into game week and you get to see these guys in roles that they've earned. But for me, it's never moves past very far the idea that these guys have worked so hard for this. And the games, this is the fun part for them. It's a fun part for our fans as well.
Just the same thing we do every single day. Just go out and get better. Obviously, they have a ton of talent. We got a ton of talent. So prepping is just the same thing we do, every single week.
We like playing in front of our fans. It's week one. It's going to be a beautiful day down there, so I know we'll have a great crowd down there, and they make a huge difference for us. It's a tough place to play. Visitors have a tough time operating in that crowd noise, and the dog pound will be rocking.
This is Cleveland Sports Radio, 92.3 The Fan. Ladies and gentlemen, it is game week. Welcome.
We're here, Kenny. We're finally here.
You better bet your ass we're here.
Yeah, all right.
It's football.
Okay, pigskin.
Fine.
Gridiron, pigskin, helmets.
When are you going to be excited?
Straps.
When are you going to be excited?
Do they even wear jock straps anymore? I think they don't. I think we went over this. They don't wear cups.
I would hope they wear
cups or straps. I don't know.
So you're telling me you've worn more jock straps in the last calendar year than professional football players?
Kenny, it's an every night thing now.
Oh, interesting.
That comfort, that feeling. I mean, come on.
The support.
Oh, cozy.
The touch, the feel of cotton.
The fabric of our lives.
Come on, you're not excited? Fine. All right, fine. We'll go over that huge embarrassing failure for Bill Belichick last night then.
No, I'm definitely excited, and I think college football, I saw it was, one of my favorite podcasts. I think it was Clay Travis saying college football makes a mistake and they should start the season like 5 weeks earlier and capitalize on there being no NFL, because this was amazing. This last week was amazing. I mean, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then it ended with a big dud yesterday, but it became kind of entertaining if you were looking at your phone just with social media and everything yesterday. But it was a perfect primer to get into the football season.
So last night was an abomination of the game, which I know it's your first game out and things are changing over, but my God, what was your reaction as you were watching unfold?
There's no talent on the team, and you kind of have to have talent on a football team to compete against a program that TCU has been a fine program for a long time in college football.
There's no other way. I mean, I'm sorry. Like I can try to give him as much credit as I can, and I know that he's a good coach, and he's there's legendary status there. But the Tom Brady stuff it ain't going to go away, and I can't deny it anymore. I mean, my God.
Yeah, but I wasn't thinking about any of that last night.
The player evaluation.
I wasn't thinking about any of that last night. I thought about
all of it.
Here's why. I said this when he took the job. I'm like, man, Belichick, for anybody else would have nothing left to prove. And remember, he left the door open to going back to the NFL. It's just no NFL teams wanted him. He was ready to leave North Carolina. If you believe some of the reporting, and I do.
I agree with you. I believe you.
He was ready to leave, and that door was open like 2 months after he took the North Carolina job. So when I think about the guys that are the hungriest college football guys, even with the landscape changing, I don't think about somebody like Belichick, who I think by all indications, like his life has changed so much over the last 5 years anyway, that guy was going to grind it out to get all the top recruit. No, he wasn't going to do any of that. He just wanted to be on a sideline. He just wanted to have a football team. And that's just not going to work. And it's not going to work at North Carolina, where the recruits aren't just funneling their way there because of the mystique of North Carolina. Maybe if Belichick were at Ohio State and had the machine of Ohio State, then yeah, I'm sure he'd have the best players in the country. He doesn't. And his player, I mean, Kenny, if you'd been following the recruiting at all, it was like, what is North Carolina doing? But people would be like, but it's Belichick, so you might coach him up. It's like, yeah, but you got to have players. Those guys, what programs would those guys be at if they weren't at North Carolina?
Well, so that's part of the issue.
Bunch of guys that would be playing for the Army and Navy, like that, they don't have a shot week to week.
Here's Belichick after the game last night, which I don't know if you stayed up for the end of it. I don't know why you would have. You could have seen Kirk Herbstreit's dog. That was probably the highlight of the second half. Was the dog getting on the headset, which apparently Kirk Herbstreit's in a little bit of hot water. I don't know if you want to call it hot water. We'll get to that here in just a moment. Here's Belichick after the loss.
They just outplayed us. They outcoached us. I mean, they were just better than we were. That's all there was to it. They controlled both sides of the line of scrimmage. Their skilled players played well, and they did a lot more things right than we did. So, give them credit for being the better team. They certainly deserve it.
48-14, the final score last night is TCU dismantled.
And it wasn't even that close.
Dismantled UNC. Here's Sonny Dykes, the head coach at TCU, saying that there was a lot more coverage of UNC than there was anything on the Horned Frogs who were in the national championship game just a couple years ago.
We all felt a little disrespected maybe coming in there was a lot of conversation and none of it was about us. And so, I think we all were highly motivated. Our players were certainly excited to play. North Carolina came out and executed really well on the first drive. We got down early and it didn't look great for us. Our guys just hung in there and, we really prepared well. I'm really proud of our guys and they put a lot of work in and we showed up.
Somebody texted me this overnight and I woke up to it. Somebody texted me, they go, he has the problem that Deion had at Colorado, where you are not talented enough of a team right off the bat to have everybody circling you that want to whoop up on you. Like Sonny Dykes, you've interviewed Sonny Dykes. Sonny Dykes has been through the wars. I mean, that's a football coach. That's a college football coach who's been through the ups and downs of being a college football coach. I mean, he's been hired, he's been fired, he's been to the top, he's been having to rebuild teams. And then you look across the way, and he knows, even with NIL and all the stuff, he knows the tricks and the trades and all the other stuff to get him going. And you look across the way and you see this guy and he just drops in on your life. The difference is, though, I really did, and you can go back and check whatever tapes, I really did firmly believe Deion would get it turned around at Colorado. I watched this last night and I go, oh, God. Like some people are making bowl game jokes. I go, are we sure they're going to a bowl game? Who says North Carolina's going to a bowl game?
Well, does he have a Heisman Trophy winner like Deion did?
I look at the rest of their schedule. You got Charlotte, you got Richmond. Okay, maybe 2-1. Charlotte and Richmond. Charlotte's
the team
they got a new coach.
The team I saw yesterday would have lost to a lot of the teams in the
Do they have Charlotte and Richmond talent?
I mean, you think, I don't know, Stanford's on November 8th. Stanford looks terrible. You got that going for you. Other than that, you ain't beating Syracuse. Virginia, Virginia I know is historically kind of on their ass, but I don't think you're beating Virginia. Cal, I got something for you there later on. I really do have an update about him coming up at 6:45. I don't want to give it away. Don't you go looking.
Did you like yesterday how, because it was the only game in town last night, it was the only thing on Monday night following the weekend, everybody is just kind of on their couch or in bed. They're like, oh, let's see what Belichick's doing.
Let's see Belichick.
So everybody had to have a comment and make it a referendum on his entire coaching career. Did you like that?
Yeah.
Like they were going to use one college football game when, I don't know, like I said, seemed to me like he was half in to this job to begin with.
But then that becomes like
remember I asked you like 2 months in, I'm like, does he have any recruits? Does he have any commitments whatsoever?
I don't know.
And we were looking, we scoured, and we're like, oh my God, he's got nobody. Like 2 months into the job, because we all thought he was going to the NFL, and so did everybody else that recruited against him. They're like, oh, he's not even going to be coaching this team.
Well,
so we looked, and I'm like, they've got nobody. They've got a bunch of 3 stars and guys that their other offers were Army and Navy. Like, sorry, you're not winning big-time college football, Power 5 football with those guys.
The staff doesn't look like a great staff. No. It looks like the Belichick friends and family. Like, you have Freddie, who stayed on there. Mm-hmm. You have Mike Lombardi, who's the general manager. I'm like, well, do you know about college football talent anymore? I like, you're used to getting them as seniors in 4 years of development.
Grown men, yeah.
Like, you're talking about, and, they gave $50 million to Belichick. What do you have left over in the kitty to go buy talent? That you can get in the transfer portal and do all this. Like, what do you really know about that? Like, these are questions I'm sure Mike Lombardi would have a really smart answer to it because he covers all those things because he's a good talker. But, like, you got the Sons, Freddie, Mike Lombardi, like, it's friends and family. And a lot of people drawing conclusions to the Jordan Hudson stuff. Old guys like younger women. That is not a surprise. I thought, I go, yeah, it's still Belichick. They'll come out prepared. They did not look like they were ready to play football.
Did you? Well, they had the first drive.
Like they were ready to play football.
They had the first drive. He coached them up on the first drive.
My God in heaven.
So you looked up into the press box or into the one of the suites, and it was Michael Jordan. It's up there
with LT.
Yes,
LT was up there.
Which I just have to laugh every time. I mean, he has been everywhere lately. Remember, he was part of the presidential fitness program or whatever. And I'm like, man, it does pay to be really good at something, because if he were just an average football player, he'd be the biggest pariah of all time given his public life. And he's
Lawrence Taylor?
He's up there in the suite. And they're like, Lawrence Taylor, and I'm like, man. I mean, I know we're in some
skim over the crack stuff, right?
That's the least of his worries.
That's the tip of the iceberg. The crack's the tip of the iceberg. When the crack is the tip of the iceberg, folks. Whoa.
But I wonder how those guys were feeling.
He made jokes himself during, what was it, Waterboy?
Waterboy, yeah.
Waterboy was great.
This game, it was at least a game at halftime, and you wonder what that suite looked like, because I don't think they showed him again after that. I wonder what that suite looked like 4 minutes in to the third quarter when the route was on.
Probably looked like a suite we all wanted to be in. During that game, at least you're having a good time. No one suite that was having a good time.
That's why you bring LT.
Kirk Herbstreit was caught in a hot mic, though. And there's a debate about whether or not he was saying that. Well, just listen to the clip here of Kirk Herbstreit. Here we go.
They're bad. Fourth quarter starting here in Chapel Hill.
So that's a hot mic situation. They were coming back from break.
Courtesy of ESPN.
Audio courtesy of ESPN. And Kirk Herbstreit apparently got caught saying they're bad, to where Kirk Herbstreit has responded, and he said, quote, must be a slow night, not sure why this is confusing. I said, quote, you're bad, to my spotter Darren for something funny he said when we were just coming back on the air. Say it again, or write it again, or play it again there.
They're bad. Fourth quarter starting here in Chapel Hill.
I think I do hear him say you're bad, but
no, I got to hear it again. Okay. At first, I'm like, oh, he's clearly lying. But now, the second time I hear it, I was like, wait a second. Did my ears mishear it? Like, was this the
Am
purple?
I playing you're bad in one ear and they're bad in the other?
Was this the purple dress thing? Go ahead.
They're bad.
See, now I don't know.
Fourth quarter starting here in Chapel Hill.
But the recovery from Reese makes it seem like Reese thinks he said you're bad. They're bad. I'm sorry, they're bad.
Well, wait a minute. His spotter has tweeted.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
Tony. Twitter reactions brought to you by Scheib and Jewelers, Cleveland's premier jewelry store. I was standing 3 feet to his right in that booth, 100% accurate. He said you're bad. Okay, then what did the producer say? Did the producer make fun of UNC? Were they laughing about that? Were they laughing about something else? Who knows?
What did
I don't think it really matters. Does it really matter?
What did the dog spotter say?
He's a lot.
What did the dog's makeup artist say?
Well, we don't know what the dog's makeup artist said. But if
the dog's got a whole crew.
Again, if you're saying that a team that's bad is bad, is that a big deal if he would actually even said they're bad? I mean, it was 41-14 at the start of the fourth quarter.
Fine.
And I think a lot of people were looking at this going, boy, they're bad. They are really bad.
In fact, it was so bad that Herbie, even if he was talking about anything else in the world, like, oh, that conflict going on overseas, that's bad. Whatever it was, he should have just gone on Twitter and said, I was talking about UNC football. They were bad. And people have been like, yeah, okay. We all agree. We all saw it. At least he's being truthful.
They're bad.
He might have been talking to Belichick directly himself, going, "You're bad. Team's bad. The whole thing's bad. It's bad."
But I don't. But you see what I'm saying? Like,
I'm viewing now.
I think it's silly to act like whole career fraud because of last night.
The whole career has
nothing to do. One has zero to do with the other.
This is the internet. This is sports media.
Sure. So it's people just trying to get attention, whatever. But no one could possibly really believe that because they got blown out last night, therefore he's overrated as a coach.
It's not that he's overrated, but you got to remember
every coach has been blown out. What about Nick Saban?
You got to add some context to it here.
Didn't Nick Saban get humiliated in his first game back at Alabama?
I don't know if that was the case, but you got to add some context to it here. Is that people have been having an argument between him and Brady for most of some people's lives, for crying out loud. I mean, it's been 20 plus years of whether or not it was Belichick or Brady, which one was really the guy. And which, I mean, you always look at it and go, well, you can have great coaches. They're not magicians. You have to have great players. You can have coaches that can get guys from point A to point B better than other coaches. That's absolutely true. And they have better ideas, and they're good at scheming, and they're good at doing some things to help out their players. But you got to have great players. So it's like you look at some of the legends of all sports. They had great players. John Wooden was the first guy to say it. Like, I recruited the best players. I had some help there, but we're going to leave that alone. You're always going to have a great player. And so, yeah, Belichick had great players. You don't have great players here. You don't have great players. And you got 11 games to go, and it's a long season, and it's going to be appointment viewing for everybody who hates Bill Belichick out there. Because and I think it was something that there were a lot of media people that we know who were making a big deal of Jordan Hudson stuff. And I called him and why are we doing 4-piece exposés on a guy who likes a 24-year-old girl? Like, that's not surprising that a 74-year-old guy would want someone 50 years younger than him. What is the surprising thing? And I think last night they were going, that's why it was a big deal, because that team looks unprepared. Mm-hmm. Completely unprepared. And he, at least he has, 4 years, 11 games left on that $50 million contract. So unless he resigns himself and decides to give him money back at the end of the year, because it certainly ain't going to be after last night.
Saban lost to Louisiana Monroe his first year at Alabama.
Yeah. They were 6-6, I think, his first year, if I'm not mistaken. 7-6. Oh, they probably went to a bowl game, won the bowl game, maybe? Yeah. I'll never forget that Louisiana Monroe loss. Jimmy and Kevin were at the OSU game. Some people thought that might have been a problem. We'll get to that. And I got 4 quarterbacks I'm watching for your Cleveland Browns. And this is before their season even starts. Maybe that's a big problem to folks. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima, take us with you to work on the free Odyssey app.
traffic is a service of Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care.
Through September 30th, save up to $170 on select Bridgestone tires. $70 off instantly, plus a $100 CFNA rebate when you buy 4. Offer subject to credit approval. See store or econrads.com for details. Bridgestone, the official tire of the Cleveland Browns, proudly sold at your hometown Conrad.
Listen to 92.3 The Fan on the Odyssey, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn app.
There are 4 quarterbacks I'm watching for the Cleveland Browns already. Is that wrong?
I'm sorry, it's not more.
Well, I got to narrow it down at some point here.
Yeah, a whole season for that.
Which I put 3 on social media, then someone went Fernando Mendoza. I went, that's right, Fernando Mendoza. Threw some nice balls on Saturday there. So I got 4. Do you want me to put them in order, or do you want me to just give them to you?
No, just go. Just
in
go.
no particular order. Lenore Sellers, Garrett Nussmeier, Carson Beck, even though that's... I hem and haw about the Carson Beck stuff.
Carson was looking like a magician.
Just not a big Carson Beck guy, but credit where it's due. And then the other one is Fernando Mendoza. That's where it is. I was very happy with Lenore Sellers and Garrett Nussmeier because it confirmed... there was confirmation bias there with those two that I really liked. The Cade Klubnik, I was happy with that performance because there was confirmation bias that I didn't like. He ran for a first down, and he did some things that reminded me of when somebody else would run for a first down and go, oh, God, here they come. Because I thought everybody was watching the game, and a lot of people were watching that game who are Browns fans there, including Jimmy Haslam was apparently at that football game. Jimmy was at that game. He got a whole day of college football in where he was at the Ohio State, Texas game. Notice I didn't say Arch Manning in there. The Ohio State-Texas game, and then he was at Clemson-LSU, according to the reports there. So he's getting it all in.
So I'm sure he did.
Crossing all the T's.
I'm sure he did, but maybe he was better about not getting caught with cameras and everything. And this way, there was no way you could avoid it because he was there pregame and everybody was there pregame.
Yeah.
Did he do this when Baker was coming out? Did he do this when Johnny was coming out?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. I don't remember him getting spotted and having it be a big deal on social media.
Is that a
then.
bad thing?
No.
Okay.
No, not at all.
Well, that's the only reason you make a big deal of it is if you think it's a bad thing.
Well, it just would be interesting if he like flat out did not do it back then and now he's doing it. That would be a little more eye-opening if you knew for a fact that he wasn't going to college. Now, granted,
why is that?
He still had Pilot Flying J back then and whatever, so... maybe he could say he was a little busier. Now this is what he has. I mean, he has the Dome and he has the football team, and that's his business right now. So maybe you make that argument. But I would find it very interesting if during those pivotal times, especially when they had the number 1 overall pick, that he wasn't going to the games to meet people before the games. Because, you're taking in all information when you're doing that. You're talking to anybody who's around a program. You're doing whatever you can to canvas, to get your research in.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it means anything is what you're asking? Or I'm trying to put questions into your head that maybe you're not asking. Maybe I'm thinking a little too deep here.
Oh, I think it's common sense. I think that they're taking a quarterback next year. And so they're scouting. They're gonna do as comprehensive a scout as they can on all these quarterbacks. And they're going to try to see people in person.
Well, because the thought, I don't mean to read too much into it or be too dramatic about things, but do we know that Andrew Berry is going to be there next year?
No.
So you better go yourself, if anything, because I'm going to be the one to have these impressions here. I'm the one who owns the football. If I'm Jimmy, I'm the one who owns the team. Now, I can hire new people.
You wouldn't take your lead scout?
No, you can take all the people you want, but I'm talking about him going to games. Him going. I don't know if Andrew was there or Andrew wasn't there. Yeah. He was at the games. Do we know for a fact Andrew was at the games?
I thought there was video of the two of them before the game.
Well, I don't know. I didn't see anything about Andrew, so anybody confirming anything will be the first time it's confirmed to me. All right? But if you're Jimmy, because you asked, why didn't he go to games before the Baker thing? And you said, well, maybe he was busier because he had Pilot Flying J at that time and all the other stuff. And my thought was, okay, you have this new you're going to have probably a new quarterback more than likely. Everybody knows, or at least everybody believes, unless one of your 2 rookies ends up getting a chance and going out and playing very, very well. So if any of those guys go, okay, so there's Andrew with him, correct?
Yeah, oh yeah.
All right, there's Andrew at the Texas game.
But I can tell you the video where I found this on YouTube?
Yeah.
Buffs Nation Daily.
Are they mad that he's at the game?
I'm sure they were. They don't want him talking about other quarterbacks.
You got to do your due diligence here. So, okay,
sure, it's about the Colorado Buffaloes, not just guys that work out a lot.
If maybe it is about guys who work out a lot. Maybe they're just based in the state of Colorado and they like to work out a lot.
I thought Stefanski picked up 8 to 10 pounds of lean muscle mass over the offseason. I thought
maybe that's what they're scouting.
Jim Schwartz about 20.
So you got to be ready for the future. And if you're Jimmy, it's like, well, I've been led down a lot of primrose paths over these last how many years about quarterbacks, whether or not to keep them, whether or not to get rid of them, whether or not to draft them, whether or not to draft the guys. And if I've been led down this path, and you got to be honest, you do not know in the back of your head, you have all the best intentions possible that these guys are all going to stay. But at the end of the year, it might be an untenable situation. So if it is untenable, then you're going to come right out and think, all right, I got to know the people as best I can. Because this next investment I make is going to be a massive one. And my next investment I intend to make on a quarterback, I am tired of making investments on quarterbacks. This guy, we got to get it right over the next 15 years. Because you're going into 2026. You want that guy hitting the ground running. You want that guy to be a fantastic football player because it's best for your football team and because it's best for business. Because by 2029, then he's a 3-4 year vet, and now it's time to go into a new stadium and everybody is going to want to see him. And you want your guy to be one of the best in the league. So when you are at these games, yeah, it does help you out tremendously in any form of fashion to be at these football games. So yeah, I'll give him enough credit where it's due for him to go to these games. I just wanted to know if you thought it might be a little bit too premature or whether or not I was maybe even being unfair where I'm like, all right, I got 4 quarterbacks off the top of my head right now that I'm paying attention to. One begrudgingly, I will admit that.
I didn't hear Carson you say Drew Aller, by the way.
I didn't mention Drew Aller yet. I told you why I hold back on Drew Aller.
Yeah, but I would think if you're a Browns fan and you think they're taking a quarterback next year, or probably you'd be watching all of them. Drew Aller's going to be one of the top guys.
I'm going to watch all the quarterbacks. I did watch Drew Aller on Saturday, but I'm talking about the guys who I think I would be willing to maybe squeeze the trigger on drafting about. And in order, as of right now, I'm going Lenoris Sellers, then Garrett Nussmeier, then Carson Beck, then maybe Fernando Mendoza. There's no maybe, then Fernando Mendoza. Those are my 4 guys right off the top. Now, that can change week to week.
I had never heard you mention Fernando Mendoza until today. I had not mentioned
Fernando Mendoza until today on the air. I did not know that he was going to be a real, sincere candidate, and a lot of people were talking him up during the offseason. And then I saw him on Saturday, and I go, these are some really nice footballs. I need to take him into consideration. Again, he's 4th on that list.
But Drew Aller is where on that list?
He would maybe not be on that list right now.
Wow.
He's under the Mendoza diagonal.
He's on everybody else's list, but he's not on Ken Carman's list.
But I've told you a great deal why.
Just because he's from here.
Yes.
Which normally that's why people would want the guy.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I know we have new listeners.
I'm not trying to...
It's football week, and you didn't explain...
You're turning it around on me. You're trying to... I'm not trying to zig when everybody else zags. I believe wholeheartedly he's got 2 games that he can show that to an Ohio State fan, or to a Browns fan, he's worthy of being taken. And one of them, I think, is against Oregon, and the other one will be against Ohio State. Those are the games. And then when the playoffs come around, then we'll see about that. But he's got those chances. Now, I really like Drew Aller personally. But because he's from here, I just think that's a tremendous amount of pressure to put on a guy who's from here to go to a football team. It's not like he's from Green Bay and we're just going into another line of quarterbacks here for the first time in 10 years, it seems, that they get a new quarterback. We're going since Bernie here. That's a tremendous amount of pressure to put on a young man. So, yeah, I put him almost in a separate category. And I put him away from the 4 guys that I'm watching right now. Yes. Is that a satisfactory answer to you?
Sure. I just want to make sure people know, because it would be a glaring omission if you don't mention Drew Aller as one of the guys that could be, top 5 pick next year, and you didn't mention him.
He could be a top 5 pick next year. But I'm talking about for the Browns. That's what I'm talking about. Was there a guy that you came away with liking more than the other ones over the weekend?
Yeah. That LSU, I think I texted you about a dime that I saw in the second half. I'm like, we've seen enough here, ladies and gentlemen. That could be the next.
What I liked about, because I liked Nussmeier last year. Let's be honest, going into the season, and I thought he might be a dark horse candidate to be a quarterback that was the first one off the board. He wasn't. It was I think he still threw for like 4,000 yards last year. But this was a tough game to be in on Saturday. I thought you saw one guy who kind of had a deer in the headlights look again in Cade Klubnik, and I think you had a guy who was ready to go out there against a tough football team. Clemson's still a top 10 football team in this country, and they're still a really good football team. Again, they were at home. And to go out there week one when not everything is going to go your way, it tends to be a little sloppy. To go out there and to kind of lead them the way you did, that meant a lot to me with Garrett Nussmeier. I thought the same thing for Lenore Sellers. It's bound to be a little clunky. You're in that one-off Sunday day game when you're going up against a team like Virginia Tech, which is not the greatest football program in the world anymore, but it's still going to be a tough one. And by the way, South Carolina's nothing to go get crazy about. They might be a playoff team this year, but South Carolina's nothing to go get crazy about. And if they are a playoff team, it's going to be because of Lenore Sellers.
What'd you think of Thomas Castellanos, Florida State, putting it on Alabama?
I thought more about Alabama than I did about Florida State.
Castellanos was awesome in this game.
And
he was talking, you know what, he'd been doing it all offseason, too.
But I really thought that Kalen DeBoer he's going to be surprised at the lengths that Southern football fans are willing to go to get you ran out of town.
To pay a buyout?
Or what dirt they're willing to dig up, or any of the crazy things that Southern football fans are willing to do to get a guy out of a contract, especially at a place like Alabama. If they don't like a guy, they're going to find he better be as squeaky clean in his personal life as he possibly can, because whatever it is, if you keep losing football games like that, they're going to find it. But I came away with more takes about Alabama than I did about Florida State in that one. Coming up in 5 minutes in Lima Likes. Folks, I might have something to add to Lima Likes that Lima will have only had to be able to stay up late on Saturday to see. I think it's going to bring a smile across your face there, Tone. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima. Lima Likes coming up in 4 on The Fan. Friends, Ken Carman here for the wonderful people at Daisy.
Need to talk about the Browns? We got you covered. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Does Lima like?
Or does Lima no like?
Like? Tell me likey. I'm liking it. I like it a lot. No like. He doesn't like you. I don't like you either.
You're tacky and I hate you.
Like or no like. No like.
But I definitely knew what I liked, and I definitely knew what I didn't like.
All right, lengthy weekend. Seemed like the most sports humanly possible, and that is a week before the NFL even gets started. Can you imagine what it's going to be like next week? But we have to start out with a team that I'm afraid it could be over for.
Lima no likes.
With the Guardians. Got off to a great start going into the weekend, and then finished with a thud over the last few days. And dare I say the last two games, the last two losses, unlucky. Can I go that far? Listen to this. Yesterday in Fenway, where it seems like that's one of the places where something like this could go down. Listen to the call.
Down the line, a long way into the corner, and it is caught, I think. Now they're saying no catch.
Foul ball is what they're yelling.
Boston is challenging the call of foul ball. After review, the call of the field is a home run. The ball hit the foul pole.
What a bizarre scenario as the ball popped out of the glove, then hit the foul pole. And
they were still talking about it like 3 innings later, and finally Rick came on the broadcast and said, I wouldn't sugarcoat it if I thought it was a home run. If I saw it hit the foul pole, but I didn't, they went and got another angle, and they finally showed it hitting the foul pole.
And you could see it, but this was after what happened the day before in the final game against Seattle in that series, where they got squeezed on a call at balls and strikes, and the next thing you know, there's a challenge about what's happening to first base.
Yeah.
Just nothing going their way right now. And listen to Steve Vogt, by the way, yesterday when it comes to the home run, and then we'll get to some more of the Grizzly details.
I've seen it go over the fence. I've never really seen, one tip off onto the foul pole. It's probably the only foul pole you can really play at that height. But that's what this park does. You see some weird plays.
Right. Had they have been anywhere else, it doesn't go down. But in the end, as a lot of parents tell their children when their parents actually talk to their children, you're not going to sit around and play the victim every day. Like, you create your own luck. Have the Guardians created their own luck this season?
I don't know. Not about that one. I don't think they've been unlucky all year. I think that one was just bad luck.
Well, this was going to be next.
Lima no likes.
As we really don't have much in the way of new information on their gambling investigation, MLB and MLBPA have agreed to extend the non-disciplinary paid leave of the Cleveland Guardians pitchers Emmanuel Clase and Luis Ortiz until further notice. While MLB continues its investigation, we will not comment further until the investigation has been completed.
Is that bad luck?
Is that bad luck too?
Just don't be gambling.
No, I think
illegal gambling.
I think it's bad luck for the Guardians that they had a closer involved in this situation, and then at this stage, it's in September. We don't have any information. We're just fans having to wonder.
Seeing in hindsight what we've seen from the starting rotation, Luis Ortiz might have been the guy we were depending on.
Was it bad luck the Browns have had a quarterback suspended? Was it bad luck that the Browns might not have Quinshot Judkins? What's bad luck?
I think I did say that.
So everything's just bad luck?
The Judkins thing was bad luck. And clearly, I think if you're a Guardians fan and you lose your closer over this, that's pretty bad luck.
Okay, just bad luck. That's all it is. When teams lose, it's just bad luck. The Browns have just had a bunch of bad luck last 25 years.
No, I think there's a pretty clear delineation when you expect a closer to come in and maybe not be as good as last year where he was all-time dominant, Mariano Rivera type dominant.
You expect the closer to come in and not gamble?
Yeah.
That's bad luck?
Yeah, I kind of hope my players don't get ripped away from me for investigations that have every player's warned don't gamble, and then we still don't know. Like, the Guardians are like, we can't comment at this time. I kind of want the Guardians to comment at this time. I kind of feel like as a Guardian fan, I'd like to know why my players are not allowed to play baseball. And do we know? Do we know right now? And then what happened in the NBA with Malik Beasley, that he might have been cleared, yet he's not a Detroit Piston anymore because of this? Like, yeah, that's bad luck. I think a lot of that's bad luck.
I'm not talking about that. I don't have your guys Guys shouldn't gamble on the games that they're in?
Yes, we know, Kenny, but I'm talking
then
about
how's it luck? How is it luck? He decided himself to gamble. So technically it's a luck that he didn't get caught, that he got caught.
First of all, we don't.
Is that what it's supposed to be?
That's not what he's even being accused of, and we don't know that. We don't know that, and that's why the Guardians are not commenting on the situation. I'm pretty sure we don't know what the situation is, which is why I'm aggravated.
Okay. You're aggravating me by your aggravation, so off we go.
Well, wait a second. No, we got to talk about this.
I don't think we do.
How do you think it's not bad luck from a fan perspective when players get yanked from the team over stuff that as of right now the team can't even comment?
That they did wrong?
Are you insinuating that the Guardians knew about this and it's their fault?
No.
Are you are you insinuating the Browns knew that Quinshon Judkins did all that?
No, because he did it himself.
Even
That's
though we
why
don't
I'm saying
we still don't know about. We still don't know
Allegedly.
about the Judkins situation. That's bad.
Allegedly, you put yourself in a bad situation.
Most fans do feel like things that fall under the category of bad luck would be injuries, right? That's bad luck. What about your closer being taken away and investigated potentially by the feds from gambling? Yeah, as a fan, I'm going to go ahead and say that's bad luck.
Whatever excuse you can make for Paul Dolan, you will make.
Wait,
We've learned this, so go right on ahead.
Do you think it's a Guardians issue that he was doing this?
I don't know, Anthony. Just move on with the segment.
Okay, I just didn't understand your logic for any of that.
I don't understand your logic either.
Let's
I
go,
wanna move on.
Buckeyes, baby! The Michigan fan won't say it.
I'm not a Michigan fan.
Oh, that's right.
Is it bad luck that I don't like Michigan?
Now, I know most people say this was more about Archie being bad. I saw a lot of that nationally. But the reality is, number one team comes into your house and everybody in the country watches it, and you put it to Matt Patricia, by the way, was scoffed at. The hiring was scoffed at when he was brought in. What in the world is Ohio State doing bringing in Matt Patricia? And you know what he was doing? Confusing the hell out of somebody from the proud Manning lineage. We play the marching band song if we could. I don't know if we can. What an incredible weekend down at Ohio State. And to even add to the fun,
I'm alive.
How about Lee Corso? A perfect send-off.
Nice.
It was awesome.
5 million people, over 5 million, 5.1 million people clicked in to view that. Isn't that nuts?
It was awesome, Kenny. And not only that, can you add the Fox broadcast since I've never seen that happen before.
Maybe that's what they did. Maybe they didn't.
Oh, they did?
No, I don't think. Well, Fox showed it, but ESPN's not getting credit for that.
Yeah, Fox showed the entire pick. Here is audio from ESPN.
This is one of the easiest picks I've ever made. Texas is loaded. Texas is number one. They have a Manning at quarterback. Poor Ohio State. They ain't got a chance. Give me my first love.
And then he put on Brutus for I don't even know how many times now because Ryan Day gave him a helmet.
Yeah, it had a bunch of Buckeye Leafs on it.
Yeah, it had the Leafs from every single time he had picked Brutus. But it was awesome.
Yes.
And the fact that they had the band do their whole 20-minute routine that they always do, and it was integrated with the actual headgear selection. I thought that was... If you weren't fired up for that game, then
you're not a big
this
fan.
isn't your sport.
You're just not a fan of college football, yeah.
And not to mention, that was Ryan Day's first ever big college football game he attended, apparently, which threw me for a loop.
Kevin
Stefanski's.
Kevin Stefanski had never been to a big-time college football game. Listen to Kev.
Great experience. Good job, Coach Day and crew. That's really the first big-time college football game I've ever been to, with all respect to the Penn Quakers. So it was fun for me to be able to take my boys down there. Had a blast. The show was rocking. It was very cool.
I guess when you really break it down, it makes sense why he would have never been to a big-time college football game, an East Coaster, but kind of had to step back for a second. I'm like, man, I've been to all these big college football games in different venues, and Kevin Stefanski's never done that. But he got his taste right there.
Nice for him.
Do you think he'll be going back?
Not anytime soon because they have a season going.
Yeah. One final note.
Lima likes.
Hey, I was there for history on Saturday, not far removed from where Ken Carman lives. 21-game losing streak goes by the wayside. Kent State is in the victory column.
What's that name of that coach?
Mark Carney. St. Ed's.
Well done by him.
1 for 1. The other coach was 1 for like 31.
One of the best Carneys I've ever met.
It was awesome.
Can I add another Lima likes you're gonna love? Were you up last night, or were you up Saturday night for Cal and Oregon State?
Not that one, no.
Why would you be? The quarterback of Cal, he's a true freshman. He was 20 of 30 for 234 yards and 3 touchdowns. Smoked Oregon State. They couldn't do anything against this guy. True freshman. Do you know what this young man's name is?
What is it?
Jaron Kiawe Sagapulatelli.
Oh, I saw the last name. So we were watching that.
Oh,
I didn't realize it was on at the bar, and I kept telling my buddy, I kept saying, Sagapulatelli.
Ladies and gentlemen, the nephew of the late, great P.O. Sagapulatelli.
Oh, yeah. How great is that?
What a wonderful moment.
It all comes first. Well, he has to become a Cleveland Brown. It has to happen now.
I can't be bad for another 3 more years. We got to go get ready for something here.
That's it for Lime Likes.
Boy, he keeps throwing like that. I don't know how much longer he's going to be a Cal Golden Bear because someone's going to come and take him because that's a lot of money he can make.
If you invoke Sagapulatelli's law, you can bring him in. If his uncle played for the team, you should be able to bring him in with this.
We have mentioned that name many times.
They were showing how he's a big admirer of who? Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah. I'm guessing Polynesian.
Coming up at 8 o'clock this morning, John Greco going to join us on the show. Did he see anyone Saturday he likes for next year? And speaking of next year and watching games on Saturday, does it feel like a normal year for the Cleveland Browns? Ken Carman, Anthony Lyman, take us with you to work on the free Odyssey app. Peter and Company Jewelers in Avon.
as we get ready for the regular season by following the Browns playlist and 92.3 The Fan on the Odyssey app. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
All the Browns and NFL news you may have missed at work. The Afternoon Drive. Weekdays starting at 2. 92.3 The Fan.
We like playing in front of our fans. It's week 1, it's going to be a beautiful day down there, so I know we'll have a great crowd down there, and they make a huge difference for us. It's a tough place to play. Visitors have a tough time operating in that crowd noise, and the dog pound will be rocking.
That's Kevin Stefanski getting you ready for the game coming up on Sunday. Are you ready for the game coming up on Sunday? According to what Lyman just looked at, you're not. Was there more fever over watching the quarterbacks than there will be for the game on Sunday?
Well, I do think you had some huge college football matchups for sure. So
yeah, but you understand what I'm asking, because I think there were plenty of people who are Browns fans who are not going to sit there and watch LSU, Clemson. And maybe they would. Maybe it was week 1 of the college football season, but I think a lot of them, maybe they're not watching it as closely, or maybe it's on in the background and they're doing whatever. I know there were a lot of fantasy football drafts and things like that. But man, it seemed everything that Arch Manning's a different animal, and we'll get more into that coming up in a bit. But Carson Beck, Cade Klubnik, Garrett Nussmeier, Lenoris Sellers, Fernando Mendoza for that reason. Now I'm getting a bunch of tweets about Drew Aller and why did I leave him off the list, and I told you guys why I left him off the list. I think that's a hell of a lot of pressure. He's going to have to go out there and he's going to have to be very, very, very good against very big talent for me to think that he's going to be able to withstand the pressure of being the Browns quarterback when he's from here. It's a lot to put on a young man. And so you got to show me that you are willing to pay that fiddler and you're willing to stare that down and be able to go out and play well. That's why, like the Cade Klubnik stuff, I only mention him as a name that people are mentioning. No, absolutely not. That is to me, he is day 2, day 3 Quinn Ewers territory, but that's a different conversation. But we're watching these quarterbacks. I think there was more fever over watching those QBs in college than there is over this game coming up against the Cincinnati Bengals on Sunday.
Yeah, it's weird. It's definitely weird for a Browns home opener to see tickets available at face from the Browns, and them sending out emails, and you go to the website, browns.com, and it's that huge banner that's taken up like a fourth of the screen up top. Click to get your home opener ticket. I've never seen that. I've never seen that for a Browns home opener. So this is. I think people are on the same page that this season is a little bit different from most seasons. Now that doesn't mean that if they don't win the opener that changes immediately. Obviously, if they come out and beat Joe Burrow again like they've done 5 of the 8 times they've gone up against him, then I think people will get fired up. But I do think people are like, you got to show me. You got to actually show me you guys are trying to win this year.
Well, because I think a lot of people, I think they're already moving on, and I don't know how many people actually want them to. I wonder how many people, for a multitude of reasons. I mean, anytime we throw it out there, you get guys who call in and they say they do not like the current brain trust of the Cleveland Browns, and they believe that losing is better for everybody. That if they go out and lose, they'll get rid of the brain trust. We get a better quarterback. It's a win-win for them. Now, I don't want to go that far because I hate looking for new head coaches and hate looking for new general managers because it's not fun. Quarterbacks are fun to talk about on the radio. They are a blast to talk about it when you're with your buddies. Doesn't matter if you're on the radio at a bar. You could be at a church. It's fun to talk about quarterbacks. Looking for coaches and general managers, that sucks. It's boring. You got to hit the phones. It's terrible. I hate it. But I think that there are plenty of people out there going, if they win, you'll get their attention. They'll get their emotions. But if they don't win, if they go out there and they do what they did against Dallas last year, I think a lot of people are going to go, all right, let's see what Dylan Gabriel has. Let's see what the other kid has. Let's see where we go from here. And I'm going to be watching Ohio State, and I'm going to be watching all the other teams that I'm paying attention to. I think a lot of people are like that this year.
Yeah, I don't think they'll be saying Dylan Gabriel first. I think they'll be saying Shedeur first.
Sanders probably first. More on that coming up here in chat around 7:22, by the way.
But it is weird because we just played a promo, I think maybe a segment ago, from the afternoon show, talking about what this season's all about. And I think it's been very hard for a lot of Browns fans to kind of figure out, what is it? Like off the top, what rolls off the tongue? This season is about this. And I think for most people, I mean, when you start a 40-year-old quarterback, and I know Pittsburgh's dealing with the same thing, but their guy has the star power, at least he did. I mean, you're starting Joe Flacco, and Joe Flacco wasn't particularly good last year for a different team. So yeah, we're hoping to recapture the magic of a stretch run from a couple of years ago where you went to the playoffs. But you're starting to see the turnover on the roster, that it kind of a 2-year thing. Last year, you're down a lot of the big names from the playoff runs that this organization had, and now you're getting on to the next, but you still have your offensive linemen, you still have Myles Garrett, you still have Denzel Ward, you still have Njoku. Will Njoku be here next year? They drafted his replacement. Offensive line, they're in the process of transitioning. So can they still win games when you've kind of got two different timelines represented on this football team? Got a lot of young guys. Of course, 2 of them are quarterbacks who are not playing. One of them's a running back who we're hoping to find out some new details on and whether he's going to be available soon. But that's why I think a lot of fans may be at arm's length right now, this football team, until they prove otherwise.
I think you're right with a lot of people. Like, I'm not picking up the usual fever that we've experienced here, because like even when Deshaun's healthy, and I know a lot of people didn't like him. When Deshaun was healthy, it's like, all right, maybe he's able to turn it up. Maybe this year he's able to get it going. After the year that he had the injury, you remember what had happened, where it's like, all right, maybe we can get this thing going in the right direction. He was very good in certain spurts during the beginning of the season last year before the injury. Maybe he'll be good the entire year this year. There was that thought there. When Baker was here, coming off of 2019, I think 2019, it was kind of like, well, what are you going to do? Plus, we were all distracted by everything else that was going on in the world, getting ready for 2020. That kind of took it away, and it was a fun experience for everybody, because I don't think people anticipated them going to the playoffs. I think they just wanted Baker to play a lot better than what he was. And then after that, yeah, there was that expectation. But this is the first time I can remember in a long time. This feels more 2016, 2017 to me, where it's like, hey, they'll be there on Sunday. I think they'll be there on Sunday. I know that you've noticed some things over there on the internet where people might be putting tickets up for sale or staying home or whatever it might be. I think they'll be there on Sunday, and I think they'll whoop it up because it's tradition. But I think a lot of people are paying attention to 2026, and I don't begrudge those people. I don't begrudge him. Our own owner is going to these football games. Why is he going to these football games? Everybody knows why he's going to these games, and I don't begrudge him for doing that. So if our own owner's going there, and everybody else is going to these games,
he didn't exactly hide it.
Yeah, so
it's all over.
And I think that's like, hey, if they can win, great. I don't think they're doing what 2016 and 17 dictated, where it's like, hey, let's go out here and do this. But when you have 2 first-round picks next year, I think it's apparent to everybody that they're trying to figure out who might be worth their pick if they have to pick number 1 or number 2, or who might be really worth it where they might have to trade up and use both those first-round picks on one of these guys. And I just think that's being pure and simple, honest with yourself and with your fan base about where this football team's going to be.
But you brought up the 2016, like around that time. The difference was those teams had no talent. This team has talent. Mm-hmm. They're holdovers, right? They're the veterans. But I mean, Myles Garrett, I saw NFL.com finally had their top 10 list, like they had been teasing
the
it every
NFL
single
100
week.
from the
yeah, and Myles Garrett was the top defensive player again. Like,
what number was he overall? Do we remember?
You know what? I got it right.
Probably the first after the because ESPN he was the first after the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
He was like he was the best non-quarterback player in the NFL. Yet they got talent.
They had him 8th.
Okay, they had him 8th.
He's so a weird list. Is
okay,
it
probably
totally
some
weird.
wide receivers ahead of him and stuff like that.
Saquon Barkley number 1.
I could see that.
No, I don't. I can't see it.
I think we
can do that.
Isn't that the other one? Wait a minute. Isn't that the other players?
Well, he has.
Who does the top 100? Isn't that from players? They have a lot of respect for guys who aren't quarterbacks. When you get all the players involved, like quarterbacks, you have to be pretty undeniable. And for them to win the Super Bowl, that's the only. I don't mean to bog it down.
No, that's fine.
But that's the only reason I see it from it. And I could understand where it's like, hey, in the real world, you take the quarterback over everybody else. I totally agree with you on that. But for this team, no, I don't think it's the same as it was in 2016-17 as far as them as an organization. It can't be. The only way it could have been is if you would have traded Myles Garrett and gotten 2 firsts or anything like that. It's not that same way. But I think a lot of folks are going into it going, hey, you know what? You're going to have to show me on Sunday. I think you're going to have to show me on Sunday. You got 2 rookie QBs back there. You know people want to see either one of them, one in particular. You got a bunch of draft picks for next year. I believe you have 10. We know why you have those, especially 2 of those in particular. So you're going to have to go out there and show me on Sunday against Cincinnati, because we all got worked up about last year. We all got excited for last year, and they went out there and they laid a colossal egg in week 1, and then it never really got any better because the team they beat in week 2 sucked too in Jacksonville. And they ended up a 3-win team. And remember, at the end of the year, 3-14, and we all like to say, well, were they as bad as 3-14 because they weren't really trying to win? Okay, well, you're telling me you're not really trying to win there. So now where am I giving my emotions to? And it's not that people aren't Browns fans anymore. They're Browns fans. But notice what they're doing. They're preparing for the future. They're watching college football on Saturday. They took in all these games. I guarantee you had guys at fantasy drafts, hardcore Browns fans, arguing over the type of game that maybe Arch Manning had or maybe Julian Sayin had, but really giving these arguments about what they saw on Saturday night with LSU and with Clemson and with Penn State and with everybody. They're watching these games for specific reasons. They are preparing. The fans are preparing for 2026. You got to give them a reason to be emotionally involved in 2025, and the only way you can do that is by winning football games and winning on Sunday against Cincinnati.
Up to them.
216-474-0092. Is that your feeling right now with the Browns? Are you wait and see when it comes to the Browns about this year? Are you already preparing for 2026? Because looks like the owner is, feels like the owner is, feels like the front office already is, and we're getting ready for a football game coming up on Sunday. That and Lyman is really annoyed, and he told me, quote, Ken, I don't know how you couldn't be. What's he annoyed by? We'll tell you at 7:21 on The Fan.
Anthony Lima for Van Scoy Hair. Brand new.
Carlson, a fly ball bounced off his glove, hit the foul pole in right field, and that gave Boston a home run. And Ken pitched 2 scoreless innings of relief. You can now find 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel with the best content from our shows each and every weekday. That's 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
A lot of reactions coming in here, Tone, before you get to how annoyed you are. Brad said, as a fan, I have no interest in preparing for 2026. Not my job. I'll watch this season like I do every other. I'll cheer for them and hope they win. I don't work for the team. Why should I prepare for anything?
Well, that is true. He makes a good point. We don't actually get to draft the quarterback. So, thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, but I think Brad's saying is, I mean, we do argue about the quarterbacks, and we will have knockdown dragouts this spring, guarantee you, about what quarterback they should take. But I'm glad that there's somebody getting in on the other side, because I think there were a lot of people who were watching the games on even Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, yesterday. I don't know how much you really wanted with the Browns from the one side of that field yesterday, but either way, I think there were a lot of people watching going, okay, I like that guy, we got 10 picks, this, that, and the other. I think there were a lot of people doing that, because I just think that a lot of folks are going, I was talking to a guy on a sideline, or for Friday Night Touchdown, we were at the Highland game, and he goes, hey, how many do you think they're going to win? Be honest. And I go, it's the same thing I say on the air. I said 6. He goes, oh, come on, they're going to be better than that. I go, it's amazing, because I got a lot of people who call me a homer and an idiot when I say 6 wins. So that's like the one guy I found who was like, come on, they're going to be better than that. I was like, I hope that they are, but I don't anticipate it because of how everything's kind of set up. And I think a lot of fans are kind of going on that side where even if I say 6 wins, you go, okay, Kenny, carry more water for Kevin. Carry more water for the Browns. I'm like, 6 wins is carrying water? That's not a very high bar, guys.
I think it's just yeah, I understand what the guy tweeting you is saying. Like
he said it in person.
You're talking
about Brad here.
Yeah.
Okay,
that what are you going to be doing, scouting reports on these guys? No, it's just, I think we always envision who's next. Who's going to be the guy that is going to save the Browns? It's most likely going to be a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the reality. We thought it was Baker until many of us didn't think it was Baker. So who's going to be the guy? Is that guy likely in college right now? My response would be yes.
Yes.
I would have to bet that you got a better chance of that being a guy that's, playing on Saturdays.
So we are live on YouTube right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm shutting off the computer. You guys can see me right now. I'm shutting it off. Because what Lima's about to say is probably going to get a strong reaction out of people. Go ahead, Tone.
But I don't think it's that controversial. That's the thing. I think most people are going to be in my camp and agree with me on this.
216-474-0092. Go right ahead and call.
What I saw over the weekend, seeing the Shedeur Sanders people make everything about themselves, was just unbelievable.
About themselves.
About Shedeur Sanders. No, at no point was I watching Arch Manning on Saturday get his ass kicked by Matt Patricia and the Ohio State defense. At no point was I thinking about Shedeur Sanders. And yet I turned on social media, went to my phone, said, how? What does this have to do with the third string quarterback for the Cleveland Browns? I was amazed. Was I missing something? Like, we did talk, over the last year, that when we were saying nice things about Shedeur Sanders, we were like, hey, if you're saying nepotism, why does nepotism work for Arch Manning? Like, we called that out. But now when the games are actually going on, and it's up to Arch Manning, and it's up to Texas, and it's up to these other quarterbacks at these other schools that we mentioned in the first hour of the show, why was Shedeur Sanders' name being compared at all times? Like, Shedeur Sanders is in the NFL now. Nothing that I was watching with Texas and Arch Manning had anything to do with whether or not Shedeur Sanders is going to succeed. But I saw a bunch of Shedeur fans who, there's nothing to argue with Shedeur right now. He's not playing. Is he even the practice squad quarterback? Like, what is he? Is he the emergency quarterback? I know the Browns signed Bailey Zappi. They made that official last week. Is he still on the team? Like, he's just one of the guys that's going to be backing up Joe Flacco, and he's way down on the pecking order. So why did that have anything to do with what I was watching on Saturday, trying to size up potential future Browns quarterbacks?
Well, because I think you're being a little naive there. I really do. I can see exactly why people are drawing conclusion to that. You're going to see a lot of Shedeur things because he plays for the Cleveland Browns, or at least he's on the roster. If Bailey Zappi plays before him, I'm going to go nuts, by the way. But he's on the Browns roster. So he's a member of this football team, and you cover the Cleveland Browns. And there's been so many things, again, you said at the very beginning of this, that so much of Shedeur's nepotism, Shedeur's this because of his father. Okay, but people are thinking the same thing with Arch Manning. And there were a lot of folks waiting to see, because this guy has been propped up as he is the next big thing by all of us. And I go, man, there's got to be so many different people out there that say what they see is going to be a great football player that I have to take their word for it. And then he went out there and he struggled. Now, you could say, and I would agree with you, if you went, yeah, it's against Ohio State, there's 105,000 people in the stadium.
Yeah.
And they're all pulling against you.
By the way, Shedeur sucked against the best competition in college football.
This is a start against the very, very, very best. And I think for an Ohio State fan, you should feel really good about yourself, and that coming up again later. But I think when it came to Arch Manning, I don't know how anybody couldn't draw the conclusion to it, or couldn't draw parallels, I should say, between Arch Manning and Shedeur Sanders, and the people who are Shedeur Sanders fans going, wait a minute, why aren't you guys all saying this about this guy?
A guy
Does he look like he's ready to go?
A guy in his third start, we were comparing to somebody who had started for how many years? Did Shedeur start?
He started for 2 years at Jackson State.
And then, so we're comparing a guy in his third start to a 4-year starter. I don't understand. No, that maybe I'm naive then. I don't see the parallels at all.
I think they're going to do that.
Compare Shedeur to,
because they'll say that you didn't give Shedeur any time, and they're not going to give Arch Manning any time.
Wait, me and you gave Shedeur 4 years and we're electrified
certainly,
by him.
But I'm not arguing with you. I'm saying what they're saying.
So, but what does, I have no idea. Someone's going to have to explain to me. Shedeur, people could call up. Why are you comparing Shedeur, who is, again, third-string quarterback, only because they made a trade, would have been the fourth-string quarterback, on one of the worst teams in football? Why are we talking about him in the same sentence as somebody who just played their third game started their third game in college?
That's the only thing that they can go on, and they're going to go in real time.
Man, you guys are going to be miserable then. You guys are going to be even more miserable than you already are.
That's what it is.
And again, I'm not talking to the people who are like, hey, yeah, maybe Shedeur's a year away. Maybe we just have to come to grips that Shedeur is a year away. I'm not saying Shedeur has no chance in the NFL. I think it's going to be an uphill battle now because, I mean, come on. The guy that probably picked, well, we know because he was with Andrew Berry, but either Jimmy Haslam, whoever you think picked Shedeur Sanders, they were out there first chance they got to scout the next guy. That's going to be the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns.
And I think it bothers those folks.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. But you got to remember, there were 31 other teams that seemed to have no interest taking Shedeur Sanders. This is the team that actually wanted him.
This is where I'm in a bad spot here because I see, Tone, I know we argued and bickered about something earlier, and it was really, we were arguing two different things. And I don't want that to play into this with me or you. I see your point. I really do. I know that there's a guy who's played 4 years of college football and now he plays in the NFL, and there's a guy who's on his third start. I get all that. But these are people that are fighting for their player, and they're in internet fights every single day for their player, and what they see is something that they don't believe is fair. And they believe that Arch Manning gets unnecessary boost just by who his father's brothers are and who his grandfather is, by who his uncles are and who his grandfather is. And then the other one gets unnecessarily torn down by who his father is. Or the other side thinks he's unnecessarily propped up, which what it probably will be, I'm sure Arch Manning after this game will go on and have a fine enough career and will go on and have a fine enough season. I'm sure he'll play in other big games because he plays for Texas and they're in the SEC. And I'm sure he'll start to right some of the things that he got messed up on Saturday against Ohio State, where Shedeur doesn't get that chance because he's probably not going to play until November. If he gets to play.
But compare him to one of the guys that transferred and is finishing up his last year, Carson Beck. Compare Shedeur to Carson Beck.
Now, I'm not a big Carson Beck fan.
But don't compare him to a guy in his third start and then say, "No, Shedeur. See, you guys, the media, the media was brutal on Arch Manning." That was like one of the most humiliating reactions I've ever seen.
I thought there was a wild overcorrection on the Arch Manning stuff.
Holy cow.
I was like, okay, guys, it's not like he doesn't have arms anymore.
You couldn't go anywhere without people saying what a fraud he was. So I don't remember. I mean, look, Shedeur Sanders, I thought caught a lot of let's just say, some unfair stuff because people just didn't like his dad. Oh, whatever. Me and you, we defended Shedeur. But to go out there yesterday and or over the weekend and make all of that with Arch Manning,
but I think
about Shedeur and how unfair he's been treated.
And what really annoys you, I think, is that you've been trying to be fair this entire time, and you are treated as if you are not being fair to him. I think you've read a lot of the tweets of a lot of the people who are trying to get their own likes and retweets and trying to pay their rent with their check marks at the end of the month.
It was fun being called a bigot over the weekend. That was fun.
I think that
the guy that wanted Deshaun Watson. Yes. I guess I'm the bigot football fan.
Well, I think it's coming from that. I think that you're tired of being told that you're a bad guy for trying to be fair about Shedeur Sanders. I don't think you're a bad guy. I think you've been considerably
Ken.
pro.
That's very nice.
I think you've been considerably pro Shedeur Sanders, but you've also been pro reality. And the reality of it is this: is that if anybody's been wrong on at this table with these two guys, it's been me. Because I still will put Shedeur number 2 on my depth chart because I want to see Shedeur before I see Dylan Gabriel. Because I am thinking long term. I went back and watched Rice in Louisiana yesterday because I'm trying to find guys that maybe the Browns could draft because I go, well, Mike Bloomgren, there's definitely going to be some guys that are left over at Rice, and maybe they like some guys that go, it is Monday afternoon, and you are watching Rice in Louisiana. That's what I'm doing. So I think long term, you try to be fair, and everybody's saying you're being difficult or you're being all these other words that you know that you're not. But you can't let those folks get in the way of what your analysis is of Shedeur. Because you and I both know he'll eventually play at some point this year, and I don't want you to turn into somebody who starts to have arguments with people on the internet that's not real, and then turn that into you wanting Shedeur to fail. Because you and I have both liked Shedeur, and I can't help it that some goofballs over in Colorado, they catch snippets of Tone and Ken, and they're mad at Tone and Ken for just trying to be fair to Shedeur Sanders. But I just want to
hear from any of these people that I am referencing, can you just maybe step back and say, man, our quarterback got drafted by the team that is the most quarterback starved in all of football for 30 years. And then he went there, and his coach says he's not ready. They leak to the reporters he's not ready. They don't give him any of the first team reps, even though the other young guy did. And then they didn't even let him finish out a drive at the end for a guy that's not even going to be on the football team.
And I thought that was wrong. Did you think that was wrong?
Yes, of course
at least
it was
we
wrong.
both thought that was wrong.
But can they tell you any more clearly that he's not ready and maybe he's a year away? Maybe he's 2 years away.
Yeah.
Can you just maybe be honest about it?
It's not.
Is it possible for a Shedeur Sanders fan to just be honest?
But it's not coming from Brent Veach and Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's not coming from Sean McVay. It's coming from the Cleveland Browns. And you're seeing exactly what people outside of Cleveland think of the Browns.
But you know
you
why?
are seeing in real time what everybody thinks of the Browns outside of Browns
fans. You know why
fans.
it's not coming from those guys? Because they didn't draft him. They didn't want him to begin with. This was the one team that wanted him, and they're telling you he's behind. Maybe it's not a grand conspiracy. Maybe everybody is right, and the Shedeur fans, you wackos who have been tweeting all weekend, making every other game about themselves, maybe it's your guy is just not ready. Maybe you got to come to grips with it. I'm sorry.
I'm often accused of being the guy who's on the internet way too much out of us, too. I did not see any of this. Of course, I was busy. I didn't see any of this. I had a feeling that it was going to go that way after Arch Manning played badly on Saturday. I'm glad I was right about that. But, Tone, I swear to God, I didn't see it. I thought for a second that the Ryan Day stuff with the Pierce nip might be real, which that's coming up later on as well.
And furthermore, maybe we can just be honest, too. And I didn't want to believe this at the time because I didn't like the leaks that were coming out about Shedeur. And I'm like, some of this seems like this is unbecoming of NFL teams to leak some of this stuff out. But maybe the Sanders crew botched the entire draft lead up. Maybe they just did. Maybe it's possible. Well, maybe them refusing to meet with some teams. Maybe them carrying themselves a certain way. Maybe it's something to learn from. That doesn't mean it's over.
What do you mean by carried themselves a certain way?
Well, all the reporting that had come out that they were being very picky and choosy about where they. And by the way, it's becoming the norm because Caleb Williams apparently did the same thing. Whatever. Maybe that wasn't the smartest thing to do. Maybe if they had the ability to revise that,
Caleb Williams is going to be number one no matter what.
Sure.
Like there's guys that you can't deny.
Sure. But I'm just saying because the reports were that the dad, was being very careful about all that. We know for a fact some of the Sanders team stuff, not necessarily just Sanders, it turned off some NFL teams. And maybe that's why he slipped from first or second round all the way down to 5.
I also know that you like Shedeur, and he's eventually going to get to play, and I don't want that to permeate and turn personal. Because even though there's been guys I didn't like personally, and I've wanted them to do well. I certainly like Shedeur Sanders. I've only spoken to him once.
And I love the fact that Shedeur is not the one chirping, but all these fans feel like they have to do it for him. And I love the fact we're not hearing from Shedeur, we're not hearing from Dion.
You're not in real.
At
you're
no
not in the real
point
world.
did Shedeur do that stuff.
But the internet here, the computer, this screen right in front of me that is still dark. I wish I could show you guys on YouTube. It's still dark. That's not real. You know what real is? It's that Jimmy was at the Ohio State game on Saturday, and then he was at Clemson LSU. It's that these guys are going to be at more games. That's what's real. And if he does get the chance to play this year, then he has a very short amount of time to change their mind. And he probably isn't going to have enough time to change their mind. And you and I have to deal with the very realistic point of view where this is exactly what everybody else thinks of the Cleveland Browns outside, that they are neither not good or they are somehow used as patsies for the rest of the NFL. Like when Eric Dickerson says that there's conspiracy afoot, you got to deal with that,
Then
Tone.
what does it say to the Shedeur fans that the smart teams, the good organizations wanted nothing to do with your boy?
Then, Tone, that's something that they're going to have to rectify themselves.
They passed on him and
they
passed
just
on him
have
and
to
passed
hope,
on
but
him.
the ones that are not Browns fans are only dropping in because they're Shedeur fans. They're the ones that are going to have to rectify that and hope that he gets a chance sooner than later and he can change people's minds and can be absolutely undeniable. Because right now, the odds are against him. He's third on the team. That means that he will not play before Dylan Gabriel, whether I like it or not, because I'm just curious. Whether I like it or not, he will not play before Dylan Gabriel. And if Dylan Gabriel conducts the offense and conducts himself decently, Dylan Gabriel will continue to play, and then they'll still draft a guy, number 1 next year. And you will never get to see it, and then you'll just rip on the Browns. And then the next team he gets a chance with, because I would assume he gets a chance after next year with somebody else, well, then it's going to be up to them. But if he's not good, even the strongest Shedeur fans are going to have to come to terms with that. And it's up to them if they do or don't, because at that time, I'll have quarterback X out of this draft, and I will have moved on. That's why, Tone, of the things I've disagreed with you, I've always said, you guys act like this is our first rodeo. I got some idiot still espousing how bad the Browns are who used to play for the Cleveland Browns, and apparently I have to drop everything and play his audio coming up here later on. I'm going to get to these phones coming up next. 216-474-0092. Do you agree with Tone? Are you annoyed by all this? Ken Carman, Anthony Lima, take us with you to work on that absolutely positively free Odyssey app.
Anthony Lima 4, Q. 2 years away.
It's not coming from Brent Veach and Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's not coming from Sean McVay. It's coming from the Cleveland Browns, and you're seeing exactly what people outside of Cleveland think of the Browns, outside of Browns.
You know why it's not coming from those guys? Because they didn't draft him. They didn't want him to begin with. This was the one team that wanted him, and they're telling you he's behind. Maybe it's not a grand conspiracy. Maybe everybody is right, and the Shedeur fans, you wackos who have been tweeting all weekend, making every other game about themselves, maybe it's your guy is just not ready. Maybe you got to come to grips with it.
That's Tone. Tone wants it all, babe.
They'll come to grips. They will. They'll understand.
Who?
The Shedeur fans, right?
That's up to them, man. I can't tell them to come to grips. You can tell them to come to grips. I'm not telling people to come to grips. I'm just reading the replies of why I'm not mentioning Drew Aller yet. Drew Aller has his chance coming up on November 1st at Ohio Stadium. Drew Aller will have his chance. I'll get to that coming up again later on. 216-474-0092. Are you annoyed by Shedeur? It's like Lyman's fit to be tight. I didn't realize you were sitting on this all weekend. Yeah, it seems Saturday afternoon you got yourself in a good, strong lather, and you've been waiting to pounce for 2 days, and here you are. I would have done this at 6 had I known you were that.
What time did this hit you?
Especially, I remember I did not watch Ohio State live.
Right.
Because I was doing the Kent State game. So I got home, and my For You page was all Rippy Arch, right? But it wasn't just Shedeur. It was everybody. Everybody, all the fans of college football were just having fun. It was funny. There was a lot of funny stuff, especially because fans do not like to be told, hey, this guy, we're anointing this guy. And then we see him for the first time. So let's face it, most people, it was the first time they ever saw Arch Manning play college. He'd only started 2 games before that, and then had come in and did some running plays, some gimmick plays other than that. And everybody saw the same thing. He was terrible. He was totally confused. Then he was side-arming everything. He was like doing a Mahomes impression, yet it was way off, was nowhere near. And it doesn't doom his career. Like, come on. I mean, we could go back, look at bad games that Patrick Mahomes had. What is up with the sidearm stuff?
That was weird.
Made no sense to me.
But
that was it. Then when I saw all of that, I'm like, man, the Shedeur fans do realize Arch is getting crucified.
Yeah.
Like, were they not seeing that? He was getting crushed by everybody.
But I think that they wanted to add to it because they've seen their guys getting crucified here over these last. They wanted him
to be written off for his career. Think how silly that is.
You're kind of stuck. I mean, I look at them. Let me just give you their perspective first, or what I believe is their perspective before I go to the phones here. You and I have said, you guys bring up, well, you guys don't know nothing about anything until you see the Shedeur fans. I go, guys, we had Odell Beckham Jr. here. We had Johnny Manziel here. We had Baker Mayfield here. We got death threats from people in Oklahoma for crying out loud. Like there was a lot of people who did not. And it was
my residency here.
I mean, there were people who wished death on us and the Browns and everything over Baker Mayfield. All right, so when I make the jokes like it ain't my first rodeo, it ain't. This is my 4th. But I think that you got to look at it through their eyes and go, hey man, as much as I'm saying you just jumped into this whole Browns foray, you've kind of just jumped into the whole Sanders foray because they've been arguing for him for 4 years.
And by the way, we've been arguing with them.
But they don't pay attention because we were one of 32 teams that could have taken him, and we ended up being the team that took him. So now it's real with us. But before it's like, yeah, I like Shedeur Sanders, but that's all you would say, and then that was it. But they have been having knockdown dragouts on their social medias for 4 years and on their radio shows for 4 years. Chad in Connecticut, he's listening on the free Odyssey app. Hello, Chad.
Good morning, fellas. How you doing?
Morning. Doing well, Chad. Go ahead.
All right. So I just want to say I'm new here. I'm a Shedeur fan. I watch a lot of football. Never in my life watched one single Cleveland Browns game. I'm just going to let you know that right now. All right. So let me just give you a synopsis of why the people that are rooting for Shedeur and like Shedeur are so passionate as we are. All right. So we sit here and we have Arch being put on a pedestal for playing against UTEP and I think Louisiana Monroe, and everybody's just saying he's the next coming, the front runner for Heisman, first round draft pick, hasn't done anything, right? Just because his last name is Manning. Mm-hmm. But then we have Shedeur, who played at Jackson State, even though it's, under the level of the D1 that we're playing now. He played there was able to show something similar to what Cam Ward did when JUCO came up, did really good at Washington State. Goes to Colorado. Colorado was must-see TV every single week. Didn't matter if they got blown out by Oregon by 50 points or was in one possession games versus every other ranked team that they played that season. Against Caleb, I saw him play against Caleb, and I saw Shedeur outplay Caleb in that USC game. We saw it. So we all are looking at it and saying, hey, we saw the talent. We know that Colorado wasn't good. We know what they were dealing with, but we saw a star in Shedeur. We saw him with Travis, without Travis. We saw him lead that team. We all gone through footage, gone through these games, see him reading defenses, calling audibles at the line, changing protection. We're hearing his teammates saying, like, hey, we didn't know the play, but Shedeur is the person that's telling us the plays. He's telling us our routes. He's telling us our protections at the line. So when we hear these things and then we get to, the draft and it's Shedeur's not good on the whiteboard. Shedeur doesn't know how to read defense. He doesn't know how to get in and out of huddles. He doesn't know how to set protections. We're just like, wait, we heard this from his teammates that he does this. I've seen it. So now we go through the draft, and for some reason, the New York Giants comes out and say, Shedeur was horrible at the whiteboard, blah, blah, blah. Now, that could have just been them signaling to their fans like, yo, we're not going to draft Shedeur, and we're going to give you a reason why we're not going to draft Shedeur, just so we can draft Jackson Dart and you guys don't kill us. But what that does is that railroads Shedeur's draft stock. So now we have all these other teams or other people believing whatever they hear.
You think one team can do that? You don't think most teams are used to having other GMs signal stuff like that for whatever reason? You don't think they do their own scouting, their own investigation?
In this situation,
like, why are they taking the Giants' word for it?
Because in this situation, you have somebody so polarizing and such a different type of quarterback and has such a different type of fan base and quote-unquote aura and all these other things where it's kind of like, okay, he's a good quarterback. We see it, but he's a lot larger than life. Like, if we draft him, he's going to be our most famous, our most loved, our most most like wanted player. So if we draft him and it doesn't go well, or we want to sit him or whatever, like any type of situation is going to be a lot. So they're just like, if there's any way or any other reason that we might not want to draft him other than that, they're going to go with it. So then, and on top of that, whatever issues the NFL or people have with Deion, which I don't really understand, but it's a thing, that just adds on to it. So just like whatever reason, we'll take the reason.
Chad,
we're given a reason.
Chad, thank you very much for the call. Do you accept that tone?
Well, I agree with most of what he said. I do think there were people out to portray him a certain way. So they didn't like, a lot of the way he celebrated, which is so silly. They all celebrate touchdown. Like me and you were constantly saying, all right, just admit you don't like Deion or whatever. Like that makes no sense to me. I genuinely like the dude. Like the guy is, I just don't like his fans. Like that fan doesn't sound like a guy who's calling me a KKK member. Like that fan gave a really reasoned, breakdown of why he feels like his guy is, getting shade. But that's also not the guy that I'm talking to. That's not the guy I'm talking about at all.
But I think that's a normal guy that's going to call in that probably isn't going to start tweeting you crazy. I don't know what was said to you on social media over the weekend. This is what's
being said to everybody. It's not
very
just me.
Surprising to me.
I'm not going, woe is me. Like I saw them going after Albert Breer. They're going after everybody. They're going after everybody because they feel like, okay, Arch had hype. Therefore, why are you tearing Shedeur down and not tearing Arch down, even though I don't think I've ever seen a guy get torn down the way Arch just got torn down over the last 4 days.
I'm going to ask John.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
We're going to ask John about this coming up next. 216-474-0092. John Greco going to join us. Did he see anyone Saturday feels like he likes for next year? And let me get to a reason coming up at 8:20 why I left one of these quarterbacks off that list of 4 that we gave you at the beginning of the show. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima, take us with you to work on the free Odyssey app.
XT.
draft pick as head coach of the Tar Heels. Guardians yesterday lose to the Red Sox 6-4. Eric Zabrowski allowed a 2-run tie-breaking single. The bottom of the fifth, Guardians drop the series opener. Listen to the Fan Rewind weeknights 11 to midnight. All the best segments from all our shows, and can also listen on the Odyssey app. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
Find out what happened in Berea while you're working. The Afternoon Drive, weekdays at 2, 92.3 The Fan.
Coming up at 8:22, I have some splaining to do about a quarterback, and it ain't nobody on the Browns. I left a name off a list, and people are seemingly upset about it, even though I think some of the same people were ripping this name last fall. That at 8:22. Let's welcome in John Greco. He joins us every week. John Greco, former Browns guard, current Browns analyst. He joins us on the Fan Hotline. John, how the hell are you this morning? I got to take John. That's the problem. I have to hit the thing for whatever reason. I got my rods and cones mixed up, and I thought he was on the Comrex Owen, and he's not. Hello, he's John.
Not there. Here I am. Good morning, Ken. How are you guys?
Here he is once again. Yes, John Greco. John, did you watch the quarterbacks with a specific reason in mind over the weekend, the way that Jimmy Haslam might have been when he was at the games?
No, I did not. It's hard for me to even think about next year's quarterbacks when we, invested so much time and energy into this year's quarterback room, only for, the switcheroo to be made with Kenny Pickett. I'm trying to have nearsightedness when it comes to this team, and I'm not quite yet ready to mail it in and start talking about 2026 draft. But it was nice to see some of those. Let's be honest. There's kind of 4 names that we're looking at, four quarterbacks that we're going to be keeping an eye on this year, and one of them that played against the I almost said the Browns, against the Buckeyes, had a lackluster start, and we'll see why that may have been. Could have been Matt Patricia's new defense. Could have been just a little bit shaky boots in week 1 in a hostile environment. Something tells me that young man's going to look a lot different a month from now than he did Saturday down here in Columbus. But, so some of the other players, the LSU kid, I thought they shined and looked good. So obviously that's going to be a topic of conversation throughout the year, and a lot of eyes are going to be on them, given the Browns do have some serious ammo going into next year's draft.
All right, John, so when you think about the upcoming season, seems like every year we have, hopes for a playoff run, or, when you're starting like a first-year quarterback, then you're like, all right, expectations are at a different spot. But with this team, you're starting a 40-year-old quarterback. You've got holdovers from previous playoff teams, but yet nobody seems to think you're going to be very good. So what is this season all about?
Yeah, it's funny that we're finally here, and that is becoming a reality. The narrative was, which one of these 4 quarterbacks in the room is going to be the starter. And then we were so concerned about who was going to be the number 2 that it was like, week 1 seemed light years away. Well, here we are, and it's now a reality. And going into this season, I honestly don't know what I think is going to happen. And, Joe Flacco and this team, defensively and the guys that they've assembled around Joe offensively, they might surprise everybody and come out to a hot start. I know the schedule is difficult and it'll be an uphill battle, but we don't know what it's going to look like. There might be some young guys that shine, that surprise everyone, and they could be competitive. Especially Cincinnati. We'll look at what's directly ahead of us. They've had a sluggish start in September in recent years. And I think the guys in the locker room see the writing on the wall and say, look, I don't know if anybody is really giving us a chance this year or thinks we're going to be very good. And when you're in the first couple days of September, those conversations still matter and they can make a difference. Before I don't want to say and that derailing this season is going to happen on purpose. We'll get to that conversation later in the year if we have to. But I think right now, everybody in that building, everybody that's getting ready to suit up on Sunday, thinks they're going to win and thinks that they can, come out and start hot and make it competitive here in the first month of the season. And then the narrative changes. And then you're looking at the, next year, the next draft and adding pieces to the puzzle. A lot of these young rookies have shined in limited opportunities in the preseason. So I'm curious to see what they're going to do. But yeah, I want to see them come out and you have Joe Flacco, who's steady, who has leadership, who is not afraid to throw the ball downfield. So I hope they give him a chance to do that. And let's see where let's see what happens. So I'm just kind of looking right in front of me what's happening now and saying it's hard for me to even think about past this week. And maybe that I'm naive in thinking that, but as a player, I was like, who cares? Let's just lock out the noise, limit distractions. Let's go try to beat Cincinnati and start 1-0 and 1-0 in our division.
John Greco joining us here on the Fan Hotline. What do you think that Joe Burrow might struggle with that we could take advantage of?
Well, their offensive line, let's be honest, isn't very good. I don't think they've improved. I think that has been an area of concern for them in recent years. And, when you have a guy like Joe Burrow that's at the top of his game, and when he gets time, he's able to find his weapons and really, really be a disruptor. For them not to really address that, and they've tried. It's not like they're just like, oh, let's throw anybody out there. But that's kind of what it looks like. And they've missed on some picks and some free agent acquisitions. But rattling him and getting around his legs and having orange helmets flash in his field of vision, that is going to disrupt him. And I think that this Browns defense is fully capable of doing that. I'm curious to see what they have dialed up. You have a couple young guys in there. So are they going to create pressures? Or are they going to sit back in coverage? I don't know what the plan defensively will be, but I think getting him off his rhythm, and if you start hitting him early and send a message early, if Myles Garrett on the first third down or the first play, pass rush opportunity of the game, if he's flashing by Joe Burrow and hitting him, I think it could be a long day for Burrow and the Bengals. So that's really it. You have to kind of try to disguise things, and he's a young player. He's very smart. He's very bright. He knows defenses. You're not necessarily going to fool him and throw something at him that he's never seen before. But I think just keeping him off his rhythm to where he looks kind of like he's hopping around in the backfield and maybe pumping the ball a little bit before he delivers. If we can get him off of his rhythm and hit him early and often, I think that's how you get him out of his game. Because when he just sits back there with the confidence that, hey, no one's coming near me, no one's touching me, or I don't really care, I'm just going to deliver to these guys, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, that's when that guy becomes dangerous. When he has that confidence and that swagger about him that we all see, that's when he becomes dangerous. So to get him off that, you got to hit him early and often, try to disguise some of the defenses, show him different looks, and really the crowd's got to be into it. And if the crowd's into it and they're hitting him early, I think we'll be okay.
John Greco with us on the hotline. We've heard so much from people that have been at camp every day, and people have talked to Kevin Stefanski. There's going to be a bunch of 2 tight end stuff. So you're going to see a lot of heavy packages. What does that mean for this offense, what their identity is going to be, and what does it mean for the running game?
Yeah, Anthony, that tells me that probably not trying to spread it out much, obviously, when you'll have 2 attached tight ends. But that there's a couple parts to this answer. Those tight ends have to be terrific in the run game and in blocking if they expect the run game to look anywhere decent. Because when you attach tight ends, they're in combination with the tackles, or they're one-on-one on the backside and trying to cut off, a defensive end or an outside linebacker. So those guys have to be buttoned up and dialed in their technique and assignment. But what that also tells me is that they're trying to, condense the box on the other side of the line of scrimmage defensively for Cincinnati. Bring more guys in the box, and then you get a hat on the hat, and that's how they create those deep shots with the play action. So hopefully early they're able to get some runs popped open and pick up 4, 5, 6. And then you bring a safety down, you cheat him in, and then that's where you hit some maybe delayed play actions to these tight ends, David Njoku, Harold Fannin. And I want to see what they can do over the top. So if they can really do max protect and help some of these guys in protection and take deep shots and let Flacco, really test the field and stretch the field vertically, like I said in the opening comments, I think that's how you'll see the Browns get big chunk plays, get down in the red zone. And I think you're definitely going to see these tight ends featured in the red zone. And that's been kind of a struggle for the Browns offense lately. And when I say lately, these past couple seasons, it's about, moving the ball between the red zones hasn't really been a huge issue. Now, I know sometimes they haven't, and they've done 3 and outs and have stalled a little bit and have had turnovers. But once they get down in the red zone, especially in the tight red zone, they just haven't been able to punch it in for 6. So I want to see those tight ends, get them on the line of scrimmage, have them block, have them delay release, have some play actions, and have Joe Flacco find them in the end zone, because that's going to be what makes or breaks this offense this year. Are they kicking field goals, and then are we worried about, my God, is this guy making, is this guy missing it, or are they converting for touchdowns? And I think that's going to be a big storyline. But having those guys block, having those guys sell blocks and then release and pass play actions, that's going to be big, and that's what I'm going to be watching here Sunday.
Well, you talked about having those very, very noisy boxes with a lot more defenders coming up. And obviously, when we had Nick Chubb and in his prime, that didn't seem to bother him all that much. What type of running back is, really going to be okay with having that many bodies around them and still able to get production?
Yeah, I think these running backs that we have in the, and obviously one of them's young, and we don't know about Junkins. We'll see what happens this week if they end up getting him signed and if they can get him up to speed. But that's a different conversation. But look, Jerome Ford's been there. He's been around this tree before. He's been in the room with Nick Chubb, and I can guarantee you when the coaches put up a highlight tape and you can see everybody working in unison. The quarterback selling the handoff, stretching it, finishing his release and rollout. When you see the tight ends, the tackles, the guards, the centers working in unison, getting a hat on the hat, getting the second level, and then at the end of the day, guys, you got to make one man miss. There's always going to be an unblocked guy, a safety or a nickel or someone in the secondary. So can Jerome Ford do that? Can Dylan Sampson do that? We'll see. I think Jerome Ford has shown the ability that he can do that and make those big home run hits. But it's about getting a hat on the hat up front early, and they're definitely going to test that early with the outside zone stretch. So, condensed boxes, I'm okay with that, because as long as you get a hat on the hat and get your defender moving laterally, but you're also displacing him off the line of scrimmage, then they'll have success. And then it's just about, the running back having the vision, having some of the attributes that got them to this situation in the NFL. They're getting the ball, they're using their eyes, they're hitting their targets, they're hitting the gap where they're supposed to, hit by the design of the run, but also this zone scheme. A lot of these plays are like quote unquote design cutbacks, where it's not really like a counter where they're cutting back. They're just naturally curving their target and cutting back off the backside combination blocks, which these Browns guards and tackles are so good at. So I'm excited to see what these guys have to do, and I think you're going to see some big chunk runs early, and then that's when the play action starts creeping in, and you have these same formations where it looks like, hey, run. Oh, all of a sudden, Joe Flacco still has that ball, and we're seeing somebody scream down the sidelines catching a big one.
Are you still 7 to 8 wins?
Yeah, I am. I think that's realistic, and my God, a lot of people were really angry when I said that, and then the three of us talked on your show how some people thought that was an undersell, which, hey, great. But yeah, I think it's going to be where they're going to be in a lot. They're going to find themselves in a lot of close games, and then we'll be able to dissect under a microscope what happened in those games. Was it a turnover? Was it a missed kick? Was it a special teams thing? There's going to be so many small things that determine one way or another in these games. But I think they're capable of winning 7, 8, 9 games. I'll say 9 games. Because I think this, in their division, they've shown that I know there's some terrific teams in their division and terrific individual players, but anybody can beat anybody in the division. And do they have a tough, road schedule, tough schedules, especially early? Yes, but anything can happen in the NFL, and I think they have the defense for it when they're healthy, and I think they have the leadership at quarterback with Joe Flacco. If they can keep them upright, hopefully they have enough weapons where he can distribute it and they can score some points.
John Greco, find him on Twitter at John_Greco77. John, thank you very much for the time. Hopefully we're talking to you after we're 1-0 on next Tuesday.
I can't wait to watch. You guys have a great week.
You too. John Greco joining us on the Fan Hotline. Coming up here in 5 minutes. I like him. I liked him last year. But November 1st will dictate whether or not you like him. Who is he? I'm going to tell you. It's 7/8/22 on the Fan. Friends, Ken Carman here for the wonderful.
find out. This fictional podcast is brought to you by NJM. No jingles or mascots, just great insurance. Insurance underwritten by NJM Insurance Company and its subsidiaries.
An accident 90 west at East 185th has the right lanes blocked with slowdowns from Lakeland. Heavy congestion 90 east from South Marginal to Carnegie. This is Joe Checkeye for 92.3 The Fan.
When you want the latest on the Browns, we're the station you turn to first. 92.3 The Fan is Cleveland's home for breaking sports news. Your teams, your station.
About last night in just under 20 minutes also, I'm going to get to this name that everybody says, Ken, you're leaving off. I go, no, you're leaving him off. At least you were last year. First off, the lineman went to Tate McRae, and I got a bunch of texts and tweets and everything, which a lot of people just thought you were went by yourself. I'm like, guys, Lyman's married. Lyman and his wife went to see Tate McRae. Lyman posted a video, and I got a lot of guys tweeting at me to take Lyman's man card. I don't believe in man cards.
Your man
card is
revoked.
Man cards are your testicles. I can't just take away Lyman's testicles. That's what his man card is. Ken. Well, I mean, but I don't think I'm going to try. That's the whole
Anthony,
point of this.
did you go to watch the show? Was that the reason that you went to Tate McRae?
I knew like 5 or 6 of her songs because my wife runs to them and loves them.
Because if you went to see the show, good for you. But I went to the Guardians game and I saw exactly the same things that you saw.
Yeah.
And I did not walk into Rocket Arena at all.
The crowd, and we talked about this on Friday. Going to concerts is even more of an experience because now you're part of it.
Yes,
because you're dressing up a certain way, the themes, the I don't know what it is. Like you would think, all right, hasn't that been that way all my life? Maybe at a Kiss concert, but now it's all these shows. Their fans are so devoted.
That's a good point.
Or an ICP show.
And that place, that place was
Fish.
That place was totally sold out. The upper deck was full like an hour before, an hour and a half. It was crazy. And then it all let out at the same time the Guardians game let out.
Yeah.
So you had these two distinct different fan bases.
We could not get out the way I normally do. So we had to go out behind home plate, but we were parked over here. So I had to go all the way around East 9th. And it was 2 different sets of fish swimming in different streams. There were cars just stopped on East 9th waiting to pick people up, leaving the concert. It was a time.
I'll tell you what I loved. I loved that I could just go get a beer. Not a long line for beer at a concert like this.
You were in the demo for the beer people.
Yes, it was a beautiful thing. There was much of a wait.
Were you and Sarah dressed normally?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, we dressed like if
normal 40-year-old people.
We dressed how we would dress if we were going out on the town.
I saw a picture posted on Instagram, and you guys looked great.
Oh well, Owen, thank you very much.
You guys looked like 2 middle-aged people going to a concert.
We didn't wear the I guess the purple bras. That's
you didn't have yours on
because she has a song that references that, or the leopard mini skirt. I opted against it this time around. We'll see next time.
She doesn't wear a lot of clothes, that one.
She basically performs in underwear.
Oh.
That's,
you got to be free moving.
That's what it is.
Yeah. A lot of dancing.
We watch a lot of splits. She does a lot of splits, a lot of leg right up in the air.
Why am I supposed to be so judgmental when we watch a combine every year?
That's true. Chris Jones, I saw everything from him one year.
Yeah.
During his 40-yard dash.
People were noting this weekend in college football that the guys are just wearing shorts. The football players are just, especially the receivers, are just wearing shorts now.
Yeah. I don't know why you
can't do that in high school still.
No.
Why? What are the rules?
Oh, you got
to have your knees covered. If you don't have your knees covered, get off the field.
It's like you're a Catholic
Back to
school.
the locker room.
You got to measure.
Yes.
Back to the locker room you go. Cover them up.
The head official stands out there with a $1 bill.
Can't do that in the NFL either. You got to have them covered all the way down, and then at least do it. Well, maybe you can have them up, but you have to have the socks all the way up, because remember, you have to have your socks on. There's a whole thing to it.
I wonder why college is so lax on that.
They've always been kind of that way. You remember the bare midriffs in the early 90s?
Okay, did you see the dude?
Guts.
Did you see the dude from Colorado, the punt returner, that had he had the baggiest uniform I've ever seen.
The 7XL.
And they just easily dragged him down. Like the gunner got down there, just collapsed the jersey, and that was it. Just brought him right down.
So I left a name off. I put the names on there that I watched earlier this weekend, and the names that I like for the Browns, obviously, because until one of the pups get a chance to play, and until they prove otherwise, we're trying to do two things at once here this season. We're trying to get ready for next year, and we are trying to win some football games, and maybe we'll win enough football games where we don't have to worry as much about next year. But the Browns are telling you, I mean, again, Jimmy Haslam went to the games. They got 10 draft picks next year, two of which are in the first round. So they're telling you everything they got and everything that they're planning. And I actually should have put a fourth name down there. I didn't. I only put 3. And then, of course, the guys from the Fan, Joey tweeted out the segment with us talking about it because I said Lenore Sellers, Garrett Nussmeier, Carson Beck begrudgingly. I'm not a big Carson Beck guy, but that was a hell of an outing against Notre Dame, big game. I think everybody's kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop all the time with Miami. I think especially with a guy like that. And stared it down and was able to get it done. And Fernando Mendoza, the name I left out, and I'm getting killed right now over it. And I go, well, guys, we'll have our moment, is Drew Aller. And the reason I left the name out is because I liked Drew Aller last year, and Drew Aller had a fine season, and then he played Ohio State. And Drew Aller can't help guys dropping footballs in the corner of the end zone. Drew Aller can't help some of the weird play calls that they have in this archaic offense where their play caller basically calls plays for Instagram. He can't help any of that. But what you can help is what he was still not very good at, which he still wasn't very good against Ohio State. I don't think he was as bad as what people made him out to be or what the internet made him out to be, but he wasn't very great against Ohio State. And I thought that's the game that matters. So I like Drew Aller. I liked Drew Aller last year. Because of Bernie, Bernie was the one who exposed him to me. I've liked Drew Aller since high school. And that was years ago when he was just a kid. But damn, man, if he don't play well on November 1st, I already know that it's a done deal with a lot of you guys. If you can't play against Ohio State, then there's no point of even bringing him up. Because if I do bring him up, the only reason you just like him because he's a local guy. That's it. You only like him because he's local. And part of that would be true. I like local guys. That is true.
So it didn't impress you 22-26 against Nevada.
He was great against Nevada. What I found really impressive was that James Franklin was giving the referees hell at the end of that football game. I mean, real hell, because he was mad about something in the final minute of that football game when it was a clear browbeating, let's get off the field, and something was not right, and he let the refs know it at the end of the game. He was still headset on, intense, up by 35 at the end of that football game. I thought Drew Aller was great. And a lot of people, yeah, you guys are right. I am leaving Drew Aller off. Drew Aller has his chance coming up on November 1st. If he plays well, I will be more than welcome to do it. Because, guys, it ain't worth my fight. It ain't worth the fight. Do I sit here and have this fight every single damn day? If he goes out there in the playoffs and has good playoffs afterwards, maybe I will. But why do I bother having the fight when I couldn't have it last year? Because it's all you do is like the guy because he's local.
But are you gonna
fine.
Are you gonna hold him to the same standard of all the other quarterbacks? Like, you gonna monitor just their big game, just their biggest game?
No, I'm gonna monitor every one of his games, but I'm not gonna put him on any lists until after November 1st. That's when they play Ohio State. I mean, I got to look at the rest of their schedule here. They have Oregon coming up on September 27th. That's a big football game. And it's at home against Oregon. Well, that's still not going to be Ohio State on November 1st.
Yeah, look, Aller was certainly not great down the stretch last year, and they went to the Big Ten championship. They obviously had, their playoff run, and he was not. At no point did I find him to be like spectacular, or I think kind of his stock actually probably went the other way last year. The good news for him is that he didn't come out. He has this year to continue to get better, to maybe we're laughing about, what we thought about Drew Aller a year prior. Gives him maybe the leg up that he has a whole another year to get ready. But you're right. It's obviously probably unfairly so for so many fans going to come just down to the Ohio State game, because it seems like people are higher on Drew Aller outside of Ohio. It's because of that game.
Yes.
It's just because of that game, even though, we got a chance to see him for the playoff run, too.
So, I liked Drew Aller last year. But he stayed in college. He might have been number one overall had he had gone to gone to the draft, or maybe he was number 2 overall, maybe he would be a Cleveland Brown right now. But I know this, that if he goes out there and he sucks against Ohio State or struggles at all, and Ohio State's obviously a good football team, Penn State's a good football team too, but if he's not able to execute, then people aren't going to want him. And the only reason I will be taking him for a lot of people is because he's a local guy. And frankly, I don't want that type of pressure on him if he's not able to do it. Like, we will find out a little bit. I mean, it is in Ohio. It's at Ohio Stadium. There's going to be 105,000 people there. I'm sure it'll be at noon because that's the way they show all those games, which, God, by the way, I was driving around after my son's flag football game on Saturday, and I went, boy, this is really early to be having a game here in 90 minutes. I was driving around at 10:30 on Saturday morning and go, this is ridiculous to be having a game this early. I understand Fox is going to do what Fox does, and I try to get people to embrace it to some degree because it ain't going to change anytime soon, but it's like, this sucks. Noon for a game of this magnitude. Like, they got Grambling this Saturday. Grambling is a noon game. That's noon.
Yeah.
Against number 1 Texas should not be noon.
I'll tell you, the people that were there say that was some of the loudest that venue has ever been. They said the fans were there early.
Yeah.
They were loud. I know Ross Bjork, that was his whole thing, was to get everybody in that stadium. And Ryan Day after the game said it was as loud as a game that he's ever coached at Ohio State.
Because all those things ended up playing well for Ohio State. All the things that I thought would play well. I didn't think that the Texas offensive line would struggle as much as they did. I think Art started seeing ghosts by the end of that football game. He was bailing out a lot in that game.
They did run the football well, but I wonder if part of that is Ohio State using 7 defensive backs, basically. Yeah. That's how they were treating their linebackers, with the exception of, holy cow, did Ohio State, now he's a Glenville kid, but Arvell Reese, did you see him? I mean, there are 4 or 5 NFL plays that if you got to see the nitty-gritty film of that dude, powerful, explosive, running around with his head cut off, that was awesome to see.
But when it comes to Drew Aller, I just don't want that much pressure on him, and that would be an insane amount of pressure. If you go out and you get picked by the Browns and they only know you for losing to Ohio State, there is an intense amount of pressure, and there's always going to be something in the back of people's minds. And then you have to go out there and you got to prove it again. If he goes out and he plays well on November 1st and then continues to play well throughout the rest of the year, then hey, you got something golden there, and I'll put him on the list. Until then, I'm just going to save myself any of the aggravation. Coming up next, you are 4 games back with 18 games left to go. It's time for a miracle with the Guardians. It's about last night on The Fan. Daisy dips, ranch dip, French onion dip.
guy like Jerry on the other side who can really, we have a lot of confidence, can win against anybody. It can open up all kinds of possibilities.
This is the radio home of the Cleveland Browns.
This penalty's declined.
92.3 The Fan.
So much can happen around the globe that we never hear of.
I really share in our fans' disappointment, frustration. Honestly, I'm embarrassed.
They've been through some tough battles, right? They know what the playoffs looks like. This team's been battle-tested in the playoffs.
He's a piece of crap. The kid, he sucks. He's sucked his whole career.
I got rumors about him. How he couldn't please his wife, so now he's divorced.
Put a damn winning team on the field.
Now, the Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima give their thoughts on what you might have missed about last night.
Well, we'll get to the friction between college coaches that developed yesterday in just a moment, but I want to get to the friction between the Cleveland Browns and a former Cleveland Browns quarterback. Yes, we have more from the former QB Johnny Manziel, who was on Shannon Sharp and Chad Ochocinco's Nightcap podcast over the weekend, and talked about his time in Cleveland, referred to how he earlier in the week said he wasn't even the biggest bust from his year's draft, and Johnny still not on great terms with the team and the city.
I sit here today and I go back and forth with, man, am I going to let Cleveland off the hook and just let it go? Or am I going to sit here with hate and animosity in my heart for the rest of my life? And I finally sit here today and I'm like, it, I think I'm going to be pissed at them and hate them forever. So it is what it is, man. No love for the Browns. I'm rooting for 0-16 seasons every season.
At the very, very least, he did take some ownership of his shortcomings of his career later on in the episode. But that's at the very, very least.
He never does. He never does. And we got this sent to us by a bunch of people overnight. Listen, he does this about once a quarter. Once every few months, he's good at this. And how long do I have to respond to an idiot and a loser before I just assume that he's just an idiot and a loser and I don't have to respond to him anymore? He's a cautionary tale at best. He is a punchline when he stands up there amongst his Heisman Trophy brethren. That's all he is to the general public, and that's all he ever will be to the general public. Is nothing but that, a loser and a cautionary tale. And flat out, I wish he was never drafted by the Cleveland Browns. I really wish he was never drafted here.
Look, the Browns, we can say they're culpable in the demise of a lot of players. Although, Baker is the one. We've always said before Baker, who are all the guys that have flourished after Cleveland? Unless you're saying the Browns ruined all these guys. But in terms of Johnny Manziel, it's well documented. And in the documentary, that's how well documented. It was actually in a documentary. Johnny Manziel was admitting what a you-know-what up he was in Cleveland. So what is it to blame the Browns? Were they supposed to physically take the alcohol out of his hands? Or the $20 bills out of his hands, or, the wig out of his hands, the flying to Vegas, the hiding in various closets in Berea? Were they supposed to lock those closets?
There's only so many ways I can skin a cat, and there's only so many ways I can call a loser a loser. And that's all he is. He's a bad quarterback. He's a worse person. And the only time I ever think of that loser is when he goes out and starts ripping Cleveland. Other than that, he never crosses my mind. I got plenty of other things that we have to deal with as a fan base.
That was on the Nightcap podcast. Shannon Sharp, Chad Johnson.
Okay.
And I'm sure in 3 months he'll go on another podcast and he'll rip the city of Cleveland and he'll rip Cleveland fans and he'll rip the organization, and I'll have to go out and pull the ripcord on myself again and go, loser, bad quarterback, bad guy, punchline, cautionary tale. Just play the hits.
Does it bother you to see that he's getting that kind of reaction from the people he's doing the podcast with?
No.
They're laughing and laughing.
No, because if the Browns were a 14-2 football team, he would look like an idiot, and probably they wouldn't even be bringing him on. He looks like an idiot regardless, but he'd look like more of an idiot if they were a 14-2 football team. But they're 3-14 last year. They're 3-14, 14-3 football team. Sorry, now you play 17 games. They were 3-14 last year. I told you earlier when we had the great big conversation about Shedeur Sanders' fan base. That's how everybody outside of Cleveland sees us. That's how the people who he's with see us, and it's up to the Browns to change that. And that's part of the frustration I think a lot of fans have with the Browns, is that I got this moron who goes on television every chance he gets and says nothing but bad things about the city of Cleveland. And none of us did any of those things that you just said. Nobody handed him the booze. No one handed him the rolled up bills. None of us handed him any of that stuff. At least I didn't. I know you didn't. So I'm sure, again, in 3 months, we'll do this all over again. He'll go on somebody else's podcast in an effort to get some numbers, and he'll say a bunch of stupid stuff that I have to sit there and respond to, even though it's the same response every time. I mean, eventually, I just have to stop paying attention to the idiot standing across the street, do I not? On we go. For another 3 months.
Speaking of losers, last night the North Carolina Tar Heels 48-14 at the hands of the Horned Frogs of TCU, spoiling the debut at the college level of Bill Belichick for North Carolina. With all the stars in attendance and a lot of potential expectations, Belichick said there's a lot that needs to be worked on.
We played competitively, but then just couldn't sustain it. So obviously we have a lot of work to do. We need to do a better job all the way around, coaching, playing. Just wasn't up to what it needs to be, and I know we're a lot better than that. So give TCU credit. They came in and did a good job, and they were clearly the better team. They deserved to win, and they did it decisively.
I'm not going to lie, I did kind of fall for it a little bit once he got that opening drive. Much like another Freddie Kitchens-led team, I thought the Carolina team was going to build upon it, and they just never did.
I got to show you something here that they can't see on YouTube or anybody because this is radio. It gets even worse. That's what was around him while he was giving that answer.
Well, them getting routed speech.
Do you see what's in the press conference there?
I see a lot of balloons.
Yeah, there's balloons, stars and balloons.
Yeah, at halftime you probably had a chance to eliminate all those and go with the bare minimum.
Even Pelissero called it tacky, and he's like this objective reporter, and he was calling it tacky. It was crazy.
It is.
Well, so
it is.
They were 4-point dogs going into the game. So
around there, yeah.
They're home dogs, weren't necessarily supposed to win, but you'd think, all right, if these two teams are whatever equal, and it's not like a huge 10-point spread. Okay, the coaching. We're going to see maybe some evidence that coaching could make the difference. But I got to be honest, man, they look like they had no talent on that football team. And then you're like, what have they been doing? What have they been doing over the last 6 months in the recruiting battles? I know Keith texted us and said their recruiting numbers are similar.
We better get them kids out there then. You better get them out there.
I remember us going over this, a few months ago going, does he have any commitments whatsoever?
This is terrible. Just terrible. I mean, I know TCU will go out and probably get vets, pay the NIL. Oh boy. This is not good. So you better figure it out. I mean, you got Charlotte and you got Richmond. If you lose to either one of those teams, if you get a split, you're a one-win team. Right now, I'm looking at you as a two-win football team.
What did we think, 4 months ago, 5 months ago?
I didn't think it was going to be this bad.
What did we think overall was going to be their record?
I thought they could go 7-5, 6-6, somewhere in there. I thought 8-4 would be a great year for them, year one. Right now, that was uncompetitive, and TCU is a good enough program. So maybe I'm giving there's too much credit to the rest of their schedule, but it's man, you're gonna get rolled by marginal football teams here just because they are going to be better prepared than you. This is you do not have time. You had an entire winter, spring, fall. This is awful. What an awful start.
Speaking of coaching, we had a little bit of a spat in the public yesterday between two coaches that will be facing off this Saturday in Oklahoma State's Mike Gundy and Oregon's Dan Lanning. Now, Mike Gundy was on his radio show yesterday talking about the comparisons in funding between Oregon and Oklahoma State, putting Oregon around $40 million, and believing that Oregon's budget should determine the program's a schedule outside of their conference play. Now, Dan Lanning responded to this in his Monday press conference.
I got a ton of respect for Coach Gundy. Ultimately, how blessed are we to be in a place that's invested in winning? If you want to be a top 10 team in college football, you better be invested in winning. And we spend to win. Some people save to have an excuse for why they don't, right? And ultimately, he's a great coach. They've done an unbelievable job, but I want to be a team that's competing at the highest level. And we're really fortunate to be in that situation. So I can't speak on their situation. I have no idea what they got in their pockets over there. I'm sure UT Martin maybe didn't have as much as them last week, and they played. So we'll let it play out.
I clowned Dan Lanning after the Rose Bowl. I can't clown him there. That's a good clapback.
A clapback?
You said clapback, and now I can't really respond to it. That's weird.
I would just say that...
I'm nearly 40 years old. Am I saying clapback, Mitch?
No. You say dead ass.
I will never use that term.
Now I won't say it because you just said it. So congratulations. Now I will not say that.
Mitch, let me give you a list of things to tell him to stop saying so.
No, I remember, there's a couple terms you guys were like, Ken, don't say that. And I was like, okay.
Do you have any other phrases, Mitch? I'll just say, obviously it pays to have talent, quite literally. You don't have much of a shot in college football if you don't have one of the most talented rosters. And how do you get the talented roster today? You got to pay them.
I love when coaches talk trash about each other because most of them hate each other. At that level, most of them really
I guess it does give
despise
it gives it a
each
built-in
other.
excuse for the coaches of the other programs. Like, well, yeah, they got way more money than me, so I'll give us a coaching edge. And Gundy's done a great job, I think, for that program.
That's why, there are guys who are buddies, but there's a lot of guys. They absolutely. That's what made when Urban Meyer's 7-0 against Michigan. I know that there's some skeletons in that closet, and you could say a lot of things, but man, that guy sleeps just fine. Because he's 7-0, and he knows that Jim Harbaugh has stayed up an extra hour thinking of that before because he hates him. He hates him so much. Is that it for about last night?
It is.
Outstanding clap back from that guy. Coming up at 9:20, it's not true, but man, I wish this was true. I wish this guy would have done it because if he did do it, Tone, I will be Buckeye guy for the rest of my life, or at least as long as this guy is at Ohio State University. Coming up next, though, against your better judgment, we're going to break down the game against Cincinnati. Ken Carman, Tone Master General. Take us with you to work on the free Odyssey app and watch us for free on YouTube as well.
Anthony Lima for Q.
Browns lose to Boston 6-4. Eric Zabrowski giving up a 2-run tie-breaking single in the bottom of the 5th. Guardians drop the series opener. Kyle Manziel, a solo home run, but Cleveland has lost 13 of its last 20. Want to catch highlights from The Fan from earlier today? Get over to 923thefan.com or favorite 923 The Fan on the Odyssey app for all today's headline segments. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 923 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
Talk sports deep into the Cleveland night. Overtime with Jake Volnick. Weeknights at 7. Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
A breakdown you didn't know you wanted coming up in just moments. First, you win a pair of tickets to the 27th annual Taste of the Browns on September 15th at Huntington Bank Field to benefit the Greater Cleveland Food Bank. Just enter the word sports. That's what we talk about them here. Sports. S-P-O-R-T-S. Sports. By the end of this hour at 923thefan.com to get registered to win. Get tickets at greaterclevelandfoodbank.org. It's all from Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. Sports. S-P-O-R-T-S. Sports. That is the word. You go ahead and you do it. And you get to go to the Taste of the Browns. 27th annual. Taste of the Browns. Sports. Go ahead and do it. A breakdown that we don't know if you really want. We're getting ready for the season, and Lima looked at the ticket situation right now. Plenty of good seats available.
I just can't remember you being able to just get tickets from the Browns week of an opener.
I think you could.
No?
I think you could.
I used to. I mean, I literally used to run an event for the opener, and those tickets were impossible to get. You had to get them second party, and they would be like double. Now you can get them, and still people are saying they're still expensive. Well, it's a sporting event in 2025.
You know they're the second cheapest?
I know. I do know that.
Going into this year, Daryl posted that. We're the second cheapest experience.
And that's even after
it's not even that much.
That's even after they went up. They went up after last season. 3-14, they raised them.
So do they want us to break down the Bengals? Because there seems to be a lot more interest in what happened over the weekend, and frankly, let's be honest, the third quarterback on this football team, than there is about actually beating the Bengals.
Well, this game, what's interesting about this game is that we are the second biggest home dogs this week. Mm-hmm. New Orleans, I think they're getting 6.5 in their game. We're getting 5.5. So, I mean, that is a huge spread. That's a huge deficit at home. Ironically, it's a team that we seem to not have all that much trouble against, even in our down years.
Yes, and let me be abundantly clear. This isn't your fault, guys. This is not I'm not blaming fans for the lack of interest about a game. You know, I can try to create interest for the game. I can try to do it. We can play the Michael Stanley. I can get excited. I can tell you. I can give all the rah-rah speeches you can. I'm good at it. I can get people excited about some stuff. I'm an excitable boy. But if I don't feel it, then it's going to be hard to get it over. And I think a lot of fans don't necessarily feel it right now. I think that this season, please prove me wrong. 216-474-0092. I think it's week one. The Bengals always start out slow. Yep. I know that they're tired of hearing about starting out slow. T. Higgins was ripping guys in the media for talking about them starting out slow, even though they do. Jamar Chase was upset about it. It's like, hey, man, you guys were supposed to be a playoff team last year. Joe Burrow was relatively healthy the entire year last year. You finished 9-8. You get out to these slow starts. You fired Lou Anarumo. You can't sit there and blame him anymore, even though everybody thinks your defense still isn't good. That's even with Trey Hendrickson, which you dragged that out the entire offseason as well. You and I bickered about whether or not Joe Burrow, if Joe Burrow has any right to complain about anything. I go, well, they've signed his 2 wide receivers. Usually they just make franchise guys have 1 premier wide receiver on your football team. Because T. Higgins, I don't know if he could be a number 1 for a great football team, but he could be a number 1 in the NFL.
He's like a Jerry Jeudy, right?
Yeah, he could be a number 1 for a football team. So I don't want to hear any more of that. And I could give you all the reasons why, I think the Browns absolutely have a shot against Cincinnati on Sunday. And why they shouldn't maybe be I don't think they should be favorites, but why they shouldn't be a 5.5-point underdog. I can give you every reason in the world. Talk about the Bengals' bad offensive line and our good defensive line.
Myles Garrett.
The Bengals' bad defense, where they do have Trey Hendrickson, and hopefully a running game that's going to be able to eliminate turnovers as best they can, control the clock, win a tight football game, and get a win in week one. And I think a lot of folks out there are going, great, tell me about it on Monday. Or tell me about it Sunday at 4 o'clock after they get the win. Because I think a lot of people when you watched all throughout the offseason, the constant tug and pull, all the arguments that you and I had over the quarterbacks and the two rookies, it was all, remember, I couched it all. So this is all still on me where I go, hey, you know what? It's August 12th, and they're still taking a quarterback in the first round next year. Hey, it's July 23rd. They're still taking a quarterback. Like, that never budged. They still had 2 first-round picks, and then the owner and the general manager, the coach went down with his family, a different set of circumstances. But, I mean, he's a football guy for crying out loud. The owner and the general manager were at the Ohio State game. Now, I know that there's a lot of positions that they're looking at. You're going to cover your bases. And then the owner, did the general manager go to LSU Clemson, or was it just the owner?
I didn't see pictures of him. Remember, he has a twin brother, too. So,
well, the owner was at...
We can't confirm that it was him or not.
That's true.
Fair enough.
Even a DNA test,
and he
it'll be
works
tough.
for the Eagles, right?
It'll be very similar.
The owner was at LSU Clemson. Okay, he's a Tennessee fan. In Tennessee, where they taking on Syracuse?
Yeah.
They beat the brakes off Syracuse. Good God almighty. What a day for a Tennessee fan. Nico Amalieva was running for... He was pressured on 60% of his dropbacks.
UCLA?
He was pressured on 60% of his dropbacks. And they got Penn State on the schedule. Holy God.
Got his money.
Oh, my. I think they got Ohio State on the schedule, too, UCLA does.
God.
Yeah, at least... You better hope they can't take any of that money back, because, buddy, you're going to be running for your life. Anywho, the guy's a Tennessee fan. He's down at Clemson, LSU. Why is he down at Clemson, LSU? Oh, yeah, the two quarterbacks are playing against each other. So, like, this whole thing, I think for a Browns fan, not even just a general, for Browns fans feels like it's all a formality until we get to next year. It's all a formality.
Now, that doesn't mean that it's not exciting to watch the rookies. We've got exciting rookies.
Well, They can be exciting, but they got to prove it to them. Because I think that everybody feels that this is just a generalization of what this season's going to be until you get a quarterback in the first round next year. And then I think a lot of fans are going, okay, now I'll take you seriously. Because the whole thing does feel like, hey, I kept the coach after a 3-14 year. Why do we keep a coach after a 3-14 year? Well, either A, I can think really that highly of him, and I can think that highly of Andrew Berry, or B, I could say, well, they did just sign him to extensions before last year, if I'm not mistaken. So you still got at least probably 3 more years left to go on that extension. So maybe we're just going to pay off the freight for 1 more year, and then we'll have a new coach and a new rookie QB and everything, and a new general manager, and everything will go on from there. Because that's what a lot of college football teams do. They take a look at the schedule and they go, yeah, we're going to go ahead and we're going to give Billy another year. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and we're going to give this guy another year. Like, that's what they do. And I think a lot of Browns fans feel that way. And if they're not going to look at this season in terms of going out and being successful, then they're not going to do it. Plus, I mean, good God, how long does the conversation around the Browns take before it gets back to, hey, you know who I saw working out again on Instagram? And that one will really take him away from the season.
As a Browns fan, where would you rather see Andrew Berry? On a college sideline on a Saturday, or at the Browns game on Sunday? If he could only be in one place on a weekend.
Well, yeah, and you feel like if he's out scouting, he's doing more than just watching with binoculars from up top. He's talking to people around the program.
Well, seeing how they interact on the sideline.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. Because I could say, hey, if they were coming off of 14-3, you're out there just doing your job. And he is. He's just doing his job. You have an opportunity to go to these college games, go to the college games, go meet with coaches, go be seen, go meet with agents. Agents are at the games now. Go meet with all these people. Do what you got to do. That's part of your job. But I think a lot of people see that and they interpret it as, man, are we really getting excited for this year? I could say, hey, he's doing his job. You got to go to college football games. It's on a Saturday. Go to a college football game. I don't care about your sleep. Sleep on the plane. Go. And that is part of his job. If I'm being deadly serious and not trying to be overly dramatic about it, but I think for a lot of fans, hey man, I got a bunch of arguments going on right now about Drew Aller and Fernando Mendoza and all these other quarterbacks right now, and I'm not getting anything about the Bengals other than, I hope we win.
Now, let's be honest. If they just win one game, it's so funny how this works. If they just win on Sunday
against Cincinnati, then we're back.
Then the whole conversation changes.
Back. But they're going to hold the Browns, the fans are going to hold the Browns accountable. When you have this type of season you had last year, I'm not blaming fans at all. This is anything but blaming fans for any of this. If anything, you're holding them more accountable and you're holding their feet to the fire going, you will get my emotions when I can trust them. Until then, I'm going to focus on the future. There's a couple people who disagree with that. God bless you. But I think the vast majority of Browns fans are going, hey, I hope you win, but I want something more tangible. I want something more realistic. I want one of these guys who played on Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. That's what I want. And I don't blame a Browns fan at all for feeling that way. So, yeah, this Cincinnati game, it kind of gets overshadowed, at least on Tuesday. As we get closer to Cincinnati, like, guys, they play Grambling at 3:30 on Saturday.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of an Ohio State breakdown is going to go on. But, damn, Sunday by Sunday, yeah, well, it'll be broke down more. But you can't help but feel some sort of way going, hey, they got a 40-year-old quarterback starting out the season. We don't believe that guy's going to be playing for very long, so there will be eventually Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. We can start those fights over all over we want, but it's going to be some time. Unless they go out and win, I think it's going to be more of the same. If they go out there and they lose the way they did against Dallas, the only anger you're going to hear is about keeping Kevin, keeping Andrew, and why the hell are we rolling a 40-year-old out there when we might as well just take a look at the pups?
That's right. We didn't have much of a post-game show last year after the loss to Dallas.
We just sat there in disbelief that they could get rolled like that as the season started. And the only thing that was playing in our heads was the Jim Schwartz quotes at the end of the preseason going, man, these guys think this is going to be easy. And they did. And they got hammered. Embarrassed even in week 1 against the Cowboys, who aren't the world's most competitive football team. So there is a lot more on this than what we think. But in terms of breaking it down and excitement for winning, please tell me I'm wrong. I want you to tell me I'm wrong. But I think the general excitement for winning for the fan is that, hey, I hope we win, but if they don't win, hey, I got a real good look at Garrett Nussmeier. And Garrett Nussmeier looked real good with 80-something thousand people at Death Valley screaming in his face, and they were able to fight off everybody and win that football game, and I might take a look at him. And that might be what Gary and Rocky Rivers thinking. And then there's a Barry in Richmond Heights, and Barry's sitting there going, I really like, I know people are ripping on Clay Klubnik, but let me tell you that, like, that's where they're at with it right now. Up until the pups get to play. Because they need the season to stand for something. If it's not about winning, and a lot of folks think that they're not going to the playoffs, then it has to stand for something, or what else are we doing here? We're just wasting our time. And fans of anything, hey, money's money. Money comes, it goes. Your most important currency is your time, and your emotions invested in your time. And if you don't think that your favorite football team, while you love your favorite football team, and rightfully so, yes, while your favorite football team, if you don't believe they're going to win, you're going to invest your emotions in the future of your favorite football team, not the now. Because there's plenty of guys out there that are listening to this. They could take or leave Kevin. They could take or leave Andrew. To hell with it. They don't really care. Next year would be a different story for them. 216-474-0092. Am I right or am I wrong? Tell me I'm right or wrong about that. It's okay. It's okay to get ready for a week 1 game and go, you know what? They got to prove it to me, Kenny. They got to prove it to me, Tone. 216-474-0092. That, and if this were true, folks, I'd be Buckeye Guy, I'd be Big Nut, all wrapped up into one. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima, live on the Fan.
Hey, don't be pressured when it's time.
bounce off his glove hit the foul pole in right field for Boston to get the Red Sox a home run, and Ken pitched 2 scoreless innings of relief. Listen to the Fan Rewind weeknights 11 to midnight. All the best segments from all our shows, and can always listen on the Odyssey app. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
I'm going to tell you this. I know it was fake. I really, really, really wish it was real. At first, I thought it might be real because I'm like, man, how would it be? I didn't realize it was Photoshop because I'm like, man, how could that be something like that be taken any other way? So they showed Ryan Day. This was post-game. This post-game photo, right? Or was this pre or post for Ryan Day?
Was it? You know what? I'm not even sure.
It looked like, either way, it looked like his left nipple was pierced.
It did.
It looked like he had a barbell in. Now, you and I have seen barbells on TV before.
Yes.
It have been, oh my goodness gracious, what are we seeing up there?
It's becoming more and more notable. It seems like people are a little more brazen in going with that kind of accessory.
I mean, I got to be honest with you guys. When it comes to a lady, it's always been something that's been very intriguing to me. In a previous life, it was very exciting to
if somebody
have the possibility of that.
If somebody goes to a, let's say, Piercing Pagoda or a Claire's Boutique, and they go out and get an accessory to accompany that, I think you'll want to see it. It's pretty standard.
I knew a guy who tried to give himself a Prince Albert once. It was crazy.
Oh.
Like, you got to rethink this, buddy. What are you doing? What are you thinking? Oh, no, he was going to do it. If Ryan Day, because the thought came out going, did Ryan Day get it because they won the national championship? And I'm going, if Ryan Day actually got his nipple pierced because they won a national championship, that is a level of football guy to me that speaks to me that I go, you know what? I've got it. I've been a guy who's questioned Ryan Day in the past, just like everybody else has. That is a man who is committed to his players, as you're going to find. That's a man I'd follow into hell. That's a man who I'd want in the foxhole with me. If you're willing to do things like that after your team wins to give them something to shoot for, you're willing to do. Like when Rick Pitino got the tattoo on his back.
Yeah, Harbaugh got a tattoo also. Jim Harbaugh.
That's football guy stuff, man. That's what I want. That's what I want out of my. That has to happen. I'm telling you right now.
I think Connor Stalions also got a tattoo after that.
Did he really?
Yeah. It had like 3 different formations on it.
It had all the plays. It had all the plays.
You guys are going to sit there and just make jokes about it.
Sorry, we're picking on your guy.
I like he's not my guy. But I'll tell you what, if I found out that Ryan Day really got his pierced because they won the national championship, all the scarlet and gray stuff comes back out. All the insufferability of me as an old Ohio State fan, which Lima never really got to see, where I was the Ohio State fan in Stark County and the Buckeye guy. And I think a lot of it changed just because of the Jim Tressel thing. We've been over that many times. It would all be back out. I would fall Ryan Day into hell. I just love football guys doing football guy things, willing to do that. That's a hell of a move. You have millions of dollars and tons of reasons to remain stoic. You climb in the foxhole. You dig down there in the foxhole with your players. That's a football guy move, and I'm down with it.
Now, he has not had a media availability since the big win over Texas. I wondered if yesterday he would have spoken, but
today's the day.
So
today's the day he would be asked.
So he's going to be asked. I mean, he's 100% going to be asked, right?
Yes. One of the big Buckeye accounts tweeted at me. They go, if who's the guy who always goes on Baskin Phelps? Tim May.
Tim May.
Yeah. If Tim doesn't ask him, then he's letting us all down.
Yeah, somebody's going to, because I don't know how much you're going to break down the Grambling game.
Well, I don't know if Tim's going to let me down, but he needs to know. I hope Tim May knows that the entire state is wondering, and somebody has an obligation to ask him about
Well, he's the highest paid state employee, right?
Because I'll tell you right now,
he has to be asked. He's the taxpayer money. I want to know where those taxes are going.
If he confirms it, I'm a different person tomorrow morning on this show. If he confirms that is actually pierced and real, and they won the national championship and he got it, and that he's their football guy, like that's it. That's it. Forget objectivity. It's out the window.
Why does he?
I am Mr. Ohio State fan.
Doesn't it need to be that if to work towards the motivation you are referring to?
I'm back on the message boards.
Doesn't he have to do it for the Michigan game? Because they've already won the national championship now. Like, he's proven he can do that.
Okay. So if he doesn't have it done, and then he gets it done if they beat Michigan, is what you're saying?
If you're talking about riling guys up and getting them pumped up, say, okay, if we beat Michigan this year on the road,
any guy who's willing,
then I'll go and do it.
To do something to his body to help his players, motivate his players to win, is going to be A-okay in my book, man. Okay? So as a football guy to football guy, I'm going to tell you that right now. Should I do that to my players? Should I offer that to my... I'll get a tattoo if you guys win the league this year.
Yeah, I think you should. I mean, you guaranteed a Browns win to a group of kindergartners, and that didn't happen, so...
It's because the teacher got me to do it. I felt bad.
Well, I think you should do this, absolutely. This is not random kindergartners in Sheffield.
Does that teacher...
These are your boys in Streetsboro.
That's true.
You better stand up right now and go get that damn tattoo
I don't
for
have
them
any
if they win the league.
I don't have any tattoos.
You
I
won't
can
see
get
a
tattoo.
bigger Rockets fan than me if you go out and you get that tattoo.
They got to win it, though. Listen, I'll get that tattoo, but you got to go through Manchester. That's always a tough one to do. All right, I know it. But as a football guy to a football guy, that's a hell of a move. And if I find out today that he did, tomorrow it's going to be nothing but Ohio State fight songs. It's going to be Lay Regiment, Hang On Sloopy, Buckeye Battle Cry across the field. I mean, I'm Mr. Ohio State guy from here on out.
It'll be great to have you back, Kenny.
It will be wonderful. I don't think you've missed me at all, but I will be that guy. It's going to be all over. I'm going to get I'm going to get an Archie Griffin jersey. It's going to be great. Can't wait to go out. Maybe I'll get an Art Schleister one just to start the conversation again, and not be ironic or even be funny about it. The olden days, guys. You guys don't know that Ken. I wish you guys would have known that Ken. I wish you would have known that Ken. The old me that was Mr. Ohio State.
Can you pinpoint the day when it ended?
It was probably around Jim Tressel. It really started. I told you, it really started in the back of my mind when I sent the stuff in computer class. I sent one to, I'd like some information. I want to attend your university. And I sent one to Ohio State first, and I sent one to Akron and Kent. And Akron and Kent sent one back immediately. Here you go. Thank you very much. I mean, guys, this is the early 2000s. Sure. And then I sent one to Ohio State, didn't get anything back. And my computer teacher was a former Ohio State cheerleader. Like, she loved Ohio State. Mrs. Dietz. Mrs. Dietz, wonderful lady. And Mrs. Dietz like, well, just send another one. And then she told me to send it, and they never sent me anything back. Which apparently there's something else you have to do to tell Ohio State. I don't remember what it is, but I think I went about it the wrong way.
I mean, now you got to get a 4.0 to even be considered.
Well, yeah, but this was a different time, and there was an inquiry about going to Ohio State. They never sent me anything back. And then by the time I got into radio, it was just like, hey, man, I went to Akron. Ohio State ain't putting no money in my pocket. Now they're running my favorite coach out of the state. Like, I didn't like that. And I went, you know what? Like, I don't hate Ohio State. I can't find myself to hate Ohio State. But damn it, I ain't the fan no more. And I've just been a college football observer ever since. I think it's made college football in general more fun for me because I can just sit back and observe everybody. And then as we've gotten older, there's coaches that we've got to meet. So I've had like a special interest in Wyoming before, and in Illinois State, and James Madison, and Indiana State, and obviously Iowa State, and what we talk about with them over there. And then all the other ones where they've kind of gone on to other places. So, and that's kind of Pitt recently as well. Like, that's kind of fun. It's been fun for me to have that observation there. But I'm going to tell you what, man, that guy if he got his nipple actually pierced, I'm Mr. Ohio State guy again. I will damn them all off, swear them all off, and until they run Ryan Day out of town, because then I will go back. But I'm a Ryan Day guy. Ted. I keep saying I'll tell you that. I just want you guys to know I'll tell you that right now.
I actually believe you.
Ryan Day will bring me back.
Can I say one other thing as we saw Alabama go down, and we know what a rough season they had last year after Saban, which we all understood. We all understood. Every team has a down year. Every program can have one down year. But I saw people saying things like, because I watched every bit of that Miami Notre Dame game. I was locked in. It was awesome. Awesome atmosphere. Awesome pregame. It's just an awesome weekend in general for college football to not have to share the spotlight, with the NFL. But I saw a lot of people say this, man, college football is just better when Miami is back. And I'm like, yeah,
I think that's
I've
true.
heard people say that about Tennessee over the years, USC.
I said that about Tennessee.
A bunch of programs, right? And then it really did dawn on me. We don't ever have to say that about Ohio State.
No, you take them for granted.
Ohio State is really good, pretty much damn near great every year for 25 straight years. There's 1 year they weren't.
They were 6-6.
That was the year that Luke Fickell
And it
coached.
didn't really even count.
And it didn't matter. And then next year they went undefeated.
And
they were
you couldn't go to a bowl game, yeah.
But they were undefeated. So even then, nobody cared that they had a bad year. Nobody really cared because they knew they were getting Urban Meyer. Like during the bowl game that year, I think Urban Meyer had already, that all the rumors were flying and everything. And it's like, oh, we're getting Urban Meyer? Okay, this was worth it. So I think about that and I'm like, I'll never have to write that sentence. I will never have to write that tweet out. College football is just better when Ohio State is good because they're always good.
I think
and by the way, college football is always awesome. So isn't that what we really want to say? College football is always awesome because Ohio State is always awesome.
I really, truly feel you're the only program, and I'm saying this as observer Ken, not Ohio State fan Ken here, okay? You're the only program that's Teflon.
It does seem like that way.
You've proved it.
It does. This is three coaches.
You've had three coaches.
LSU won national championships with three coaches, but they also had down years.
They've also had down years, exactly.
Yes.
Like, you haven't had that. You've had, you've lost in a national championship game here and there, but you've had
down moments.
You've had moments there that really should hurt the program and hurt the program for a long period of time. The Zach Smith, whatever ended up being the truth there, with everything happened there with Urban Meyer, that should have had a huge hit on the program.
In the old days, that could take down a program for 5 years.
Yes. With Jim Tressel, that should have been something that puts you on the mat for Ohio State status on the mat. That should have put you at 6-6, 7-5, 8-4 for at least a couple years. You had 1 6-6 year, and then that was it. You look at the other programs that are known as great college football programs that just have not been able to do that. Michigan was not able to do that and arguably aren't going to be able to. We'll see how Sharon Moore pans out here. You look at what they gave up for Lincoln Riley, and I'm watching Lincoln Riley against Missouri State on Saturday, and they're running it up just for FPI purposes at the end of that football game on Saturday night. You look at some of the other programs, Alabama. Alabama's been a great program for a long period of time, but guys of a certain age, like these three guys in this room right here, you remember Mike DeBose, and you remember the whole situation with the strippers and everything with the other ones and all that,
Shula.
and Mike Shula and all the other crap that went on down there. Mike Shula's a decent enough offensive mind for crying out loud, but he ain't no head coach at Alabama.
But it is incredible, and dare I say, and this is where people will say obnoxious Ohio State. I'm just dealing with facts here. 25 years. Can you name me another team in professional sports or college, whatever, of big time? We're talking big time because, I know UNC women's soccer had a 30-year run. I'm just talking about the sports that we all pay attention to. Is there another team that is as Teflon as we're talking about? And look, I'm not saying they haven't had bad endings of a season or embarrassing blowout national championship. That's not what I'm talking about. Those years were still amazing years for 99.9% of other programs.
I think it's probably the most successful program / organization in
the Dodgers
sport.
had down years before this 10-year run that they've had. I'm talking 25 years. Is there another team that can say they've been this damn good for this damn long?
Not in the sports we cover.
In the last 25 years?
25 years, and it's not just one guy. It's not like, they have the coach, or they have the quarterback, or they have the all-star, the Hall of Famer, the future Hall of Famer. Ohio State does this with 19, 20, 21-year-old kids. They do it every year. They've done it with 3 different coaches. They've done it with how many coordinators? Ohio State is the best program / team in professional or college sports for the last 25 years. Done deal.
I wish there was a way I could fight you on.
Argue with me.
I can't.
Anti-Ohio State people, argue with me. Tell me the other team. Tell me.
This is your proof I'm not anti-Ohio State, because I have no argument for you. I have none. There's no other team that can be this successful for this long a period of time, and it's just commitment to excellence the entire way through. And an Ohio State fan, after we talked a little bit about Arch Manning. I saw that performance. I had questions. I know that their offensive line is different in Texas, but you lost Jack Sawyer. That guy was an emotional leader for your football team. And it's hard to get reignited and get back going. And there were a couple things where I told you last week ago, it's great that they have Texas to start things off, not Grambling. That they have Texas to start things off. It's the first game. You can feel disrespected. Texas is the number one team. You have everything going for you emotionally, and they were able to get that done. And remember, that was a day where Jeremiah Smith had to change his gloves on Saturday. Mm-hmm. You had guys who, in Julian Sayin, I think Julian Sayin got taken in a little bit by some guys by the way, having drops.
By the way, just silly thing. Obviously, Jeremiah Smith's amazing.
Yeah.
I don't like that he had to change his gloves. It wasn't the gloves, dude. You just had some drops. It's okay.
But it's probably a mental thing.
You can have some drops.
Wait. It's probably a mental thing, isn't it? These are bad gloves. Get these gloves.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like
that first quarter, that little pitch out that he dropped. It's like he doesn't drop that thing. Right. And the look on Julian Sayin's face, like, what the hell just happened here? That should have been a first down. Change your gloves. So you had a game where you weren't even at your best offensively. Like they are not near going on full cylinders. Julian Sayin has a lot better football to play for the rest of this season.
I thought he was pretty good.
To go out there and to get that win, that's a huge, huge win for an Ohio State fan. But you're right, 25 years, it's been basically 25 years of excellence. The way that I know there's been other programs that have won more national championships. Alabama had it, but if you look at their history right before, and this is not Nick Saban's standard here. This is not the Alabama that Nick Saban had. And I think if there's anybody who's kind of smiling back on this, I don't think Nick Saban's happy that Alabama lost, but there has got to be something that's satisfied, and they're going, yep, that's me. That's the Nick Saban difference. That's what I did that other guys can't do at a place like Alabama, which is held up to a higher standard than 95% of programs.
I know we got to go. Does it sound like I'm throwing shade? Because when I really process it, does it sound like I'm throwing shade at the individual coaches that have won the national championships? Because obviously we know Tressel, Ermeyer, great coaches, and Ryan Day is now on the path of proving that he's a great coach.
I think the last three coaches, you look over the last 20 years, how's that throwing shade at them?
Well, I just mean, am I also saying, though, that it really doesn't matter? Like the next guy that takes over for Ryan Day, if Ryan Day were to leave tomorrow and go to the NFL, I think Ohio State's in pretty good hands.
I don't think it's throwing shade that the guys get the very best of the players that they have. I mean, you still got to be able to do it. I mean, there's plenty of guys like, I'm sorry, I think if Dabo were with another program and Dabo didn't have the ideas that he had, I think he'd be a more successful coach. And that's a guy who has won 2 national championships. But I think he'd be more successful recently because he still has this thought that college football in 2025 should be played like it was in 1998. And it's just not going to work that way. 216-474-0092. Like, yeah, you can get a guy. You could get a guy who isn't as committed to that as what other guys are. And you can win 10 games a year instead of 12. You could do that. 216-474-0092. Ken Carman, Tone Master General, live on the Fan. Friends, Ken.
Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free. Never miss out on great candidates with ZipRecruiter. Whenever you need to talk about the Browns, we got you covered. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Is Arch Manning catching too much hell?
Probably.
Yeah?
Probably, yeah.
Now, are you being measured in that, or you think you're going to catch a lot of hell from the other fan base that you went after today?
Probably catch a lot of hell. I mean, the thing about the Manning experience, and he was dreadful, and he has been ridiculed more than I can remember, honestly. Somebody as inexperienced as he is, even though he's been on campus, right, for a few years. Mm-hmm. But this was his third start. And let's be honest, like the two teams he had played last year compared to opening up your season against the defending champs and at their place. Like, good luck, right? Good luck. And I was going to say they were underdogs, but then that changed right before kickoff because somebody bet $500,000 on Texas and it changed the odds. You believe that? Wonder how they felt watching that game.
500,000?
Watching Arch throw.
Was that Matthew McConaughey?
Sidearm throws and it was bad. It was really, really bad. Now he did have a nice fourth quarter. Now how much of that is because Ohio State had a 2-score lead and they changed their defense a little bit, but he was totally confused. I mean, he had never seen anything like that. That caliber of defense he had never seen as a starter. And then Patricia pulling out all the stops like it was the Super Bowl.
My favorite meme was them showing Matt Patricia, and he said, "This is easy. I had to coach against real Mannings." Just like, boy, that's mean-spirited, but also funny.
Oh, there were so many good ones.
It's probably the best thing for Arch Manning.
Don't you think? I thought the same thing.
Let me tell you why. You know, when Trevor Lawrence was first coming out, it's like, man, this kid's won everything. He won in high school, every game. He won in college up until the end. Like, everything. He did nothing but win. I was like, where's the adversity? And I know we've made jokes about battling adversity before and needing it. You do need some adversity there because then you find out, what type of leader you really have. And I don't think that Trevor Lawrence is a guy who is immediately going to start blaming teammates or is selfish or anything like that. But you don't know what you have in natural leadership positions until you really have seen some adversity. So there are great quarterbacks who need to lose and need to lose at a lower level. And Texas football is a big deal, but Texas football is not the pros. And so what he does to bounce back after this, that's going to be the thing. Do you go out there and do you become the type of quarterback that a lot of people think you're supposed to become? Or do you become, in your own way, the other Manning? Because you're the son of the other Manning, and the other reason the other Manning is just known as the other Manning is because of injury, from what we all know. So I think this could be the best thing for him because it's like you need to have to answer to some adversity if you're going to go out there and be the type of guy that everybody thinks that you can be.
Well, what did you
or wants you to be or trying to talk themselves into thinking you are going to be?
Yeah, so much. Like Arch has been talked about for like 5 years, has he not? Don't you remember when he was in high school, him getting talked about? But because of the way that they really managed his recruitment, he got off social media. They were doing it their way, right? They were doing it their way. Mm-hmm. And I can already hear the Shedeur fans go, well, that's what our guy didn't. If the NFL, like, okay, that's fine. But they did it a very specific way.
Always comes back to him with you.
So, funny thing is, I don't remember people saying the stuff while he was in high school that they're saying now, which is, did you see who he played against in high school? He wasn't even playing against the top competition in high school. Like I did see a lot of people pointing that out, and I'm like, all right. Now, with that said, does that mean he's not a 5-star recruit all of a sudden? Let's see if this would have to be one of the biggest myths. If he's like just not good, then was this all some grand conspiracy too?
Well, if he's just not that good, then I think it shows you how powerful the Manning family really is in the sport of football. If he ends up being not that good, like say what you want to, and I know it's hard not to make a comparison. But some people thought, well, the only reason Shedeur gets to play is because of his father. Okay, well, no one was saying he was the number 1 overall pick, except for the biggest fans that he had. No one's saying he was the number one overall pick. I mean, people are thinking the moment he were to come out of the draft or for the draft, that Archie Manning, whatever year he decides to come out, he's the number one pick with a bullet. With a bullet that he's the number one guy. That is not number one quarterback production, but that's also the first game in your first start of the season. And this is not, as the one caller had said to us earlier, it ain't UTEP, man. That is Ohio State. Mm-hmm. And the last time he had a chance to do that was against Georgia, and Georgia wasn't very good, but he was not the type of guy that was going to be needed to go out there and to do it. They had another guy there, and it shows you just how hard this is. Like, you're playing with the big boys now. Ohio State's as close to the NFL as you're going to see. And I'm sure, I don't know the rest of Texas's schedule. I'm assuming it's going to be better. I just think it's probably the better thing for him, because if he were to pick this up and it would just be easy for him, there's still one place where it's left. And there's wildly talented quarterbacks who still had to battle some adversity when they were in college. Patrick Mahomes, that was not a national championship caliber team. Baker Mayfield, that was a national championship caliber football team that still had late game woes, late problems. It can't all just be perfect. So for a guy like that, where everybody thinks, man, it's just blessed about where you came from and what coaching advantages you had and the people your uncle know and all the things that you could say, it probably will still be the best thing for him, unless he goes out there and he's just terrible. And then we won't talk about him anymore, and we'll talk more about all the other guys. I'm not just talking about the Browns. I'm talking about everybody.
Yeah, they got San Jose next. They got UTEP. They got Sam Houston. So he's got 3 games where he's supposed to get...
When's their next test?
Their next test is right now at Florida, down in the swamp, October 4th.
Okay.
And then the following week, they host Oklahoma. So
those will be 2 decent tests.
Yeah. And then nothing again until they go to Georgia in November.
That'll be a test. That'll definitely be a test. Okay. Because as of right now, no. But it's still early in that process. I like Lenore Sellers on Sunday. I like Carson Beck, fair enough, even though I'm not a big Carson Beck guy, but I just got to give credit where credit's due. And those are those guys. As far as the other ones are concerned there, the guys who currently play for the Cleveland Browns, no, they have to have their chance. And they won't get their chance. As of right now, it doesn't seem like they're going to get their chance coming up until November, I would think it is, unless they go out there and they get boat raced on Sunday, and then everything's on deck for Monday morning. It could be a very fun show, or it could be a very, very, very ugly show coming up on Monday morning, depending on what this football team does with a 40-year-old quarterback. Because if they go out there and they get boat raced by a team that is Cincinnati's good, and they got a really good quarterback, but their defense is atrocious. And if you go out there and you get boat raced, you're turning the ball over. I can do that with a kid. I can do that with Dylan Gabriel. Or I can do that with Shedeur Sanders. I can do it with one of them guys. I don't need to go do it with a 40-year-old. If you can't figure it out, then we're looking ahead. So Sunday becomes a much bigger deal as we get closer to it. Got the podcast coming up 10:15 a.m. Eastern, 92.3 The Fan, extra on the free Odyssey app. It's absolutely free. Gary Myers, Brady versus Belichick. The debate rages on. He wrote the book about it. Literally, he joins us coming up at 10:15 Eastern. What a time to talk about Brady versus Belichick. After what happened last night with UNC. We're back tomorrow, 6 to 10 for Big Country. For Jeff, for Mitch, for the Slippery Wizard, Anthony Lima. I'm Ken Carman. Have a wonderful day, my friends.